All right, we are ready to start with the school committee business meeting for Wednesday, June 24th, 2026. I'll call the meeting to order. The mayor is absent this evening. Could everyone stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please? Oh, roll call. Roll call. We'll do roll call after pledge.
Okay.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Ms. Yao, would you please do the roll call?
Julia Walker.
Present.
Kathleen Shaw.
Present.
Brianna Higgins. Here. Lauren Ermo.
Here.
Andrew Goldberg.
Here.
John Ricky.
Yes.
And the mayor is absent.
Great, thank you. Okay, moving on to public comment. Is there anyone here who is here for public comment? I didn't check the sheet, so I don't know if anybody signed in, but if you're here and would like to comment, just let us know. Wave your hand. All right, and there's nobody participating from Zoom. So moving on to the next item, approval of meeting minutes for June 10th, 2026. Anyone want to make a motion?
Make a motion to approve the minutes?
Second.
Okay. Competing seconds. Any discussion or amendments? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
The vice chair votes aye. All right. Next item is our reps from Whittier.
I think we missed the warrant.
Sorry, I'm just skipping along. Hold tight. Thank you. Member Aramo. All right. Yes, the warrant.
I move that the following named bills in the Newburyport Public Schools amounting in the aggregate $562,805.01 be approved and forwarded to the city auditor for payment. There are no conflicts.
Second.
Okay, any questions or discussion? Everyone received the warrant in advance? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Vice Chair votes aye. Okay, now moving on to our Whittier rep updates, and I think we have both representatives here, Stephanie Kalina and Aaron Fenn. Please come on up.
Everyone hear me?
Yes.
I'm Steph Kalina, this is Erin Fenn, we're the new school committee reps from Whittier, and we are here to give an update on student activities and everything going on at Whittier. So, Whittier Tech celebrated the class of 2026 with commencement exercises and senior activities including prom and graduation events. Summer programming and preparations for the 2026-27 school year are currently underway. Students continued hands-on learning across all 21 career and technical programs, with many earning industry certifications and college credits. Whittier students collaborated on a custom motorcycle project for the 2026 New Hampshire Bike Build-Off, which was showcased during the Laconia Motorcycle Week. And carpentry students also created a little free libraries that are distributed or will be distributed in all 11 communities. Outstanding students were recognized throughout the spring through the Student of the Month and Wildcat Spotlight Awards. And several Whittier students qualified and participated in the 2026 Skills USA National Leadership and Skills Conference in Atlanta, joining more than 19,000 students from across the country. Students competed in national technical and leadership events while gaining valuable experience, industry connections, and professional skills. Career Program Advisory Boards attended a dinner this spring to celebrate their myriad contributions in the 2025-26 school year. And as far as the new building for Whittier, they continue to work with the Massachusetts School Building Authority on plans for a future facility. A shared campus with the Northern Essex Community College remains under consideration and would provide expanded educational opportunities and modernized facilities. Community engagement and planning efforts are continuing as the district evaluates long-term options for the next generation of students. So the next step here is completing a feasibility study, which is currently underway.
They elected a new financial leader. Angus is his name.
Angus King.
Yes. Replacing Kara retired. The school committee completed a superintendent's evaluation with established goals for the coming year. There was committee work continued. I am on the subcommittee for salary, we agreed to a 3.1% for non-union staff, which is in step with what union staff get. And then we met also for instructional, Monday, and we approved new textbooks and a partnership with Southern Maine Community College. And that was it. Graduation was really good. The speakers were wonderful, the 2 students, very, very moving. Skills USA is a student highly successful program. I think the 2 staff that run it just retired. They're long tenured, over 20 years experience, but they ended on a very high note. Yeah, I think that's it.
Great, thank you, that was great. Any questions for our reps? Yeah, Member
Is it
McKee.
possible, I'm sure it's public, but to get a copy of the superintendent report? The evaluation?
Yeah.
I'm just curious.
So, I believe we got through Google Classroom, it was given to us when we started in April. I think we, among others, missed it. There was like misinterpretation of scoring of like 1, 2, 3, or 4. So they were gonna redo it in May. We voted in June not to meet in July, but I think there's a staff one as well report. And so that's on the agenda, I think, for August. But yeah, I'd be happy to share.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions?
I'm just curious about the partnership with Southern Maine. Could you just talk about that a little bit further?
Yeah,
That's
so
interesting.
it's really interesting. They're in southern Portland. The 2 textbooks they have, so I believe it's dentistry perhaps, and another one, there's anatomy textbooks that we approved. And so it's through Southern Maine. These students can now get credit. There's a partnership, but the Whittier staff can teach it and use their rubric and use these textbooks. But they receive the credit. So, and then I think it's a nice resume builder for Whittier teachers as well to be able to have teaching college credit classes.
Excellent, that sounds great.
Yeah, sounds really cool.
Any other questions for our reps? Great, well, thank you so much for coming. It's great to hear from you, and we'll look forward to hearing from you again next year.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next item on our agenda is an update on the literacy curriculum adoption process.
Yes, and I'm going to call Dr. Abrams, and we'll make a switcheroo here with the presentation. But as Dr. Abrams is coming up, this was a very collaborative approach, and he'll get into all the details, but we utilized our teacher leaders along with staff. I'm sorry, Tom, I get this. Guess I can't multitask anymore. Here we go. So it was a great process where teachers and faculty felt very involved in the process. Dr. Abrams, along with Assistant Superintendent Furlong, had a lot of dialogue and discussions, and then ultimately came to the decision of the fish tank curriculum that he'll go into detail. Thank you, Dr. Abrams.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for having me here tonight. I'm super excited. It's our students' last day of school today, so hopefully they came home very excited and you have some great summer plans. So as Superintendent Gallagher said, I'm going to talk about the adoption of the new literacy curriculum, specifically talking about the process that we went through, the ultimate selection or recommendation from the committee, and then what we need to think about as we move forward, next steps to make sure that the implementation is done really well. My thing did not click. There we go. So as in the 2024-2025 school year, it was our year 4 and 5 of our utilization of the MyView literacy curriculum. And during that time of the curriculum review cycle, years 4 and 5, we begin to actually analyze whether we're getting the student achievement results that we want. So during that time here, we put together a committee of teachers, K to 5, 2 teachers from each grade level, as well as our literacy coach, Kelly Garbarino, and myself. And we started to really dig into the data that we had available for us to see if we were getting the achievement that we wanted from our MyView literacy. We utilized common assessment data from MyView from the curriculum itself. We also looked at longitudinal MCAS scores, 2019 to the most current. We also utilized any internal data that we had, including iReady for grades 4 and 5, or DIBELS for the lower grade levels. And we were able to utilize our grade level team, our GLT time, to make sure that all teachers were looking at the data, but then we also used our committee as well to dig in to the data. We didn't want to just stay with just kind of that quantitative stuff. We really wanted some qualitative stuff. So we put together some surveys for teachers so they could express their opinion and their review of MyView for the past 4 to 5 years. It was also my pleasure to conduct a number of student focus groups, grades 2, 3, 4, 5, the kids who can really articulate their opinions on the MyView curriculum. It was decided at that time that we weren't getting the student achievement that we wanted with MyView and to move on to a different curriculum. At that point, we decided to have a vision for our committee, like what do Newburyport schools need in a new literacy curriculum? What kind of a curriculum do we think would help us to get the achievement that we wanted? So our committee came up with a vision that we wanted a curriculum that was really knowledge-based, lots of interesting topics for kids to learn about. We also want something that offered lots of opportunities for writing. So that was kind of our vision, and we identified several curricula that would would meet those standards. We looked at CKLA, which is Common Knowledge Language Arts, as well as Fish Tank Learning. Once we identified those as meeting those criteria, we reached out to some neighboring districts to see if we could visit and have the opportunity to see the curriculum in action. Danvers utilizes Fish Tank, and Triton utilizes CKLA. We reached out, they opened their doors for us. We took the entire committee in the spring down to Danvers to look at Fish Tank, and then at the same time we went over to Triton to see CKLA. It was a great experience where the whole committee went. We spent the day observing classrooms. We had an opportunity to sit down with teachers, to talk with teachers about the pros and the cons of each curriculum. You'll hear me say throughout this presentation that any curriculum is going to have pros and cons, and we really went in with an open mind with what did our district need. That was also kind of, as an aside, I thought a wonderful professional learning experience for teachers to see other curriculum in action, to talk to teachers. So after those site visits in the fall of 2025 and the spring of 2026, we piloted Fish Tank and we piloted CKLA. Fish Tank was our fall pilot and CKLA was our spring pilot. We had 12 teachers formally pilot the committee, but a lot of teachers were really on board about moving to a different curriculum. So we actually had about 22 teachers overall that piloted some aspect of the curriculum. Our official pilots, they piloted either 1 or 2 units, depending on the length of the unit. If it's a kindergarten unit, those units are pretty short, maybe 18, 17 days. So they probably did 2 or 3 units. If it's like a grade 5 unit, those are like 38, 39 days, and they would pilot 1 unit there. To give you an idea of some of the topics that were covered, hopefully some of the parents in the school committee and out in the public saw some of this stuff coming home. If you were in grade K, noticing patterns and stories, underdogs and heroes, geography. Grade 1, amazing animals. Grade 2, habitats, poetry, insects. Grade 3, Thanksgiving, fur, fins, and feathers. Grade 4, geology, myths. Grade 5, they read the novel Seed Folks. They talked about how to build community, or they might have done deep oceans or poetry. So those are some of the units that your children or students in Newburyport would have taken part in. So we really started to establish systems, especially among with our grade level teams, to really look at how the pilot was working and if we were seeing some good results, what we were seeing and analyzing it. So during this, the GLT time, if it was kind of early in the unit, it allowed us to unpack the unit, to look at what it offered, to maybe talk about instructional choices that we would make. If it was kind of midway or towards the end of the unit, that gave us an opportunity to bring in student assessment, student work. We sat around the table, we looked at it, we used the rubrics to grade it. Very powerful during that time. Our committee met formally in December to review Fish Tank, and we met in March to review CKLA. At that time period, we utilized the DESE Curate rubric, which we slightly modified. because we don't have to worry about foundational skills in Newburyport, because we have foundations, integrity, and rewards, which cover foundational skills, we took the foundational skills piece off of the rubric, and we were really looking at just the comprehension piece. So the way the process kind of worked, we met in a classroom, and first individual teachers would sit down with the rubric, they would go through their experience with whatever curriculum it was, and they would grade it on the rubric, write down some pros and cons. From the individual, then we went to grade level teams, so partnerships basically, and the teachers would talk about their experience, compare their rubric ratings, and then we moved into grade bands. So K to 2 met, 3 to 5 met, they met kind of formally, we had a protocol to walk through, and then we shared out what we saw. As with, as I mentioned with my view, there were pros and cons to both curriculum. After that was done, after this was all processed, then I asked the teachers to submit to me a paragraph or two, making a formal recommendation using evidence from from everything that we've gathered. We also, at this time, kind of in this stage here, I went back and did student focus groups again, and I solicited students' opinions on the curriculum. Students were kind of right down the middle. I think it was like 48 to 47. Some liked fish tank, some liked CKLA. It was almost right down the middle. To be honest with you, some of the students were kind of confused with which was which, so I don't know how great that was, but we definitely wanted to honor student voice. After I got the paragraphs from everyone and synthesized it into a big report, I thought we'd have to have a third meeting where we'd have to sit down and kind of really talk about it and discuss it and come to a decision, but it was very easy. Ultimately, it wasn't unanimous, but it was pretty darn close. 86% of teachers decided to go with fish tank learning.
What is GLT?
GLT is grade level team meetings. And Julia, I know it's so acronym heavy, I did actually define that a couple times.
Okay.
It's just when we meet as like a grade 1 team, a grade 2 team, and Principal Sokolowski and Rossi were really accommodating to build that in. And you've heard us talk about that a lot this year.
Yeah.
It's been so important for us to move the district along.
Great, thank you.
So fish tank learning, in fish tank, they have a very robust online presence, so parents can kind of look at the units and they can even look at like a lot of the lessons and stuff too. Fish tank was designed by teachers for teachers, and their motto is we trust teachers. And I'm going to talk about that in a minute, why that's a pro and can potentially be a con. So this was some of the feedback that teachers gave us in those written reports with why we really thought fish tank was where our district should move. First piece, the student engagement was absolutely extraordinary. And we think some of that was because it was authentic literature. Students had books in hands. That was so important. Now, the way fish tank works is, as you know, developmentally, kind of K through halfway through 2nd grade, it's more teacher read-alouds, which is very appropriate. Halfway through 2nd grade, it's books in kids' hands, all the way up to 5th grade and beyond. So students were super excited to have books in hands. They were diverse, relevant texts with big topics, all built around essential questions. What can we do about pollution? Stuff that kids really dug into. Fish tank learning is predicated on lots of student discourse, lots of talking, teacher-led talking, whole class, turn and talk with kids, small group discussion, lots of discourse. The discussions that we saw were so rich and meaningful, whether it was me seeing a class or teachers reporting back, or even the students who also reported on how great some of these discussions were, and the topics particularly, very, very, very strong. The depth of learning and the critical thinking, the lessons built coherently towards those essential questions. As a high school teacher for years, they remind me of high school units, where you have that essential question, you have all that rich, authentic text, building towards that, and you're always talking about that essential question. Vocabulary development was also very strong. Honestly, both of them, but fish tank, vocab was spiraled. So students would come back again and again to the vocab words, where teachers felt like the students were really retaining the vocab. And then something that I loved about fish tank, you're kind of required to write every single day in class. A lot of times it's low stakes, responding to the text, maybe how a character acts, etc. Usually around like lesson 8 or 9, then you break into like a 2 or 3 day writing. It's not a mini unit because it's attached to the unit, but you have like a 2 or 3 day writing workshop where you're writing specifically about whatever the unit's about. So let's say for those 2 days, if it's about pollution, you're writing a little something about pollution, using the text as your evidence. And then at the end of the unit, like, let's say day 35, 36, then you have like a 4 or 5 day final project, which is also a writing-based project. Everything is built through those units. It's all textual evidence. We found that the writing was absolutely extraordinary. We would sit down at GLTs with some of our pilot teachers who would have work from this stuff compared to what we were using, and kids were writing 5 or 6 pages because they just had so much to say because everything was based on text. Now, I was smiling a little bit when I interviewed the kids. They were like, we write too much. We don't like we write too much. And I was smiling. Like, well, that might be a negative feedback. That's kind of a boom for us. So there was tons of writing there. So some considerations we have with fish tanks, some things we need to think about as a district to make sure implementation really works. As I said, fish tank is, their model, we trust teachers. So for seasoned teachers, like me, 20 years, it's pretty easy to see the lesson, see the skeleton lesson, and have those teacher moves to do, because I've been learning from my mentors for years. I'm good to go. For some of our younger teachers, they had a little trepidation with that, because it's not as scripted as a CKLA. CKLA, which was also a good curriculum, you would literally have like a parentheses. It would say, teacher stops here, teacher turns the class, teacher asks this question. Fish tank is not, Fish tank is not as scripted. Now, fish tank has the questions, but we need to make sure that teachers have the strategy. Okay, let's have a turn and talk, let's have a small group discussion. And fish tank does have those protocols built in, but it's not as scripted. So we need to really consider that especially for our younger teachers. We're dealing with complex texts, so we have to make sure that teachers are equipped to be able to teach the complex texts. We already started doing some of that work. Last summer we had a PD workshop on how to unpack and teach complex texts. We're also replicating some professional development this summer that will address some of these issues. We actually have 166 teachers at Newburyport signed up for summer PD. 2 of the actual PD. One is addressing the writing alignment, which I'll get to in a second, and the other one is addressing kind of the teacher preparation, where we're really digging into the fish tank units. Again, it's less scripted, so teachers need to know the moves. We need to make sure that they have those moves, and then we need to make sure that our teachers have the ability and the skills, and that we're all on the same page with what writing looks like in class, how we teach writing, and how we would teach writing with fish tank projects. Go.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
So that was my question. Because writing is so built in, does that mean instead of having a reading block and a writing block, you're going to have an ELA block, and the writing is going to be all incorporated into fish tank?
Absolutely. So we've already started scheduling this at both elementary schools. So it's going to be a 60-minute literacy block where it's not 30 and 30. You're constantly moving back and forth. Okay, let's stop. Let's do a quick, a little quick write. Boom, boom, boom. Let's get back to the discussion. Let's get back to the writing. It's constant. And we've already been kind of thinking about what that might look like for some of our SPED services, et cetera. So we've already been kind of considering some of those things.
And the 4th and 5th grade teachers that already had a writing, sort of the way they taught writing, felt good about how fish tank was going to do it.
Yeah. So I'll go to my next slide. And I'll stop right up here because this is kind of what you're asking right there. So, fish tank utilizes 2 frameworks of writing, right? So if you look at their graphic organizers, they utilize SRSD, self-regulated strategy development. It's just specific strategies to utilize to teach kids writing. That's kind of at like a paragraph or like an essay level. When they're working in fish tank with kind of sentence level stuff, language stuff, they utilize a lot of strategies from the writing revolution. So kind of sentence level writing revolution, big picture SRSD. Now, if you look at the fish tank stuff, you see all that stuff. Some of our teachers know it, some of them don't know it. But this summertime, we actually have 2 days of workshops in which we're going to look at how is SRSD applied to fish tank, how is the writing revolution applied there, what does it look like, how do we teach it. The most important piece for me to communicate to teachers, to everybody, is even though it says the writing revolution, there's nothing revolutionary there. The thing that we need to do as a district is get everyone speaking the same language. If we can get everyone speaking the same language, we'll have that revolution. So we're hoping to start that this summertime. So that's kind of what we're doing with the writing framework. We're really going to utilize those existing structures. This year, the grade level team time was so important. Next year, digging into the units, unpacking the units, talking about instructional choices, coming back with the common assessments so we can look at student work. And really that student work is so important for us to make moves as teachers to improve student learning. I already mentioned some of the summer professional learning opportunities. I'm going to say 166 again. I think we only have like 220 teachers in the district, so 166 is 220-ish. So 166 is quite a few teachers. And that's great. That's Superintendent Gallagher and Assistant Superintendent Furlong facilitating that. The ongoing collaboration, our team meetings, sharing practices, reviewing student work. We do have peer observations built into our grade level team at the Bresnahan. Hopefully we can get it at the Mullen as well, so we can engage in some peer observations. When we visited Danvers and Triton, it was so powerful to see other teachers just teaching.
Do you have any teachers who have experience with fish tank in the district?
No, we
Not
had
yet.
2, I believe, rookies that had some CKLA experience,
Got it.
but none with fish tank.
Okay.
None as a teacher with fish tank.
Yeah.
We do have some teacher parents who have experienced fish tank from districts.
Oh, interesting.
If that makes sense, yeah.
Okay, yep.
And then, once again, our foundational skills, we utilize foundations, Haggerty, and rewards at the different levels. So we want to make sure, how does that integrate with our kind of comprehensive literacy block? And kind of Lauren's question earlier too, in our schedules at the Bresnahan, we have the 60-minute literacy block, but then we also have a 30-minute foundational skills kind of phonics foundation block. I loved this slide. It's probably useless for you guys, but I think it's important to see, because the thing that is so important about literacy is getting everyone on board about teaching literacy. And the thing that we loved about these knowledge-based curricula was that everyone can contribute. Just some stuff, our library media specialists, they're so excited to be able to put together kind of bundles of books for these different topics. Our music, our PE, and our nature teacher at the Bresnahan, some of these units, inspiring artists and musicians is a grade 1 unit. Falling in love with writers, illustrators is a K unit. Reduce, reuse, recycle is a K unit. Being a good friend, there's a unit in grade 1 on dancers, so our PE people can get involved in that. The whole unit's not about dancers, but there are dancers that are covered in the biography unit. Our special ed interventionists, the type of writing tasks, the key vocabulary. Our science STEM teachers, you saw some of the units, the human body, awesome insects, natural disasters, plastic pollution. And then they actually, I've already been talking to the art teachers, they actually have like an art critique rubric in Fish Tank, where when they do the unit with Diego Rivera and Jean-Michel Basquiat, etc., they use like an art appreciation rubric to look at it and to write about art. So we've already been kind of talking about the art teachers who are super excited for that as well. So then the future strategic implementation, I think one of the biggest pieces is, how do we know that this is working? As we kind of get involved again in the curriculum review cycle, how are we going to measure our success? Well, hopefully our students will be reading more proficiently, better. We'll see that in our MCAS achievement. We'll see it in our common assessments. Hopefully we'll see it a little bit more anecdotally with kids getting excited about reading as they have books in hands. The onus is kind of on myself, Superintendent Gallagher, Lisa Furlong, the principals, the assistant principals, to get into classrooms to see if the curriculum's delivered consistently and effectively. And then are we seeing sustained growth over time? As you guys kind of know with the iReady math, the first couple of years can be a little bumpy. We're rolling it out, we're adopting. Hopefully by year 2 and 3, we're starting to see some really solid results. We're going to ground that in our reading proficiency, our MCAS, our assessment data. We're going to look at that high-quality instructional practice across classrooms. Hopefully, we have much more teacher buy-in to this. I know Sean mentioned it earlier. This was truly an inclusive process. So many teachers had a voice in this. It was truly a teacher decision. So I think we're already on the way to getting the teacher buy-in and teacher capacity. And then again, student perspective, I think that's so important for us. Are you enjoying reading? Are you engaged? Are we seeing it pay off there? So this is more for the teachers that were involved in this. The 12 teachers in Kelly Garbarino, meeting after school, they were just such a powerful force in kind of moving this along. Many of them are our instructional leads, our CELs. So it's going to be important moving forward that they kind of keep rolling with this, with the instructional leadership that Sean and Lisa have engendered in Newburyport. So that's all I have. I'm open to questions.
Great, thank you, Dr. Abrams. I'll open it up to members who have questions.
I've got a bunch,
Member
but this is awesome. It's super cool and exciting. I know we say that a lot. Oh, this is exciting. This is really exciting. It's very cool. Could you just, you've reviewed this before in smaller settings, but how you ended up with CKLA and Fish Tank would be really helpful. I don't mean to go back in time too much. And then I have some other questions.
Yeah, no, so that's actually a good question. I should have been a little more specific. So when we crafted our vision of what we wanted in the curriculum, which was really, we wanted that knowledge-based curriculum. We know that kids will read more proficiently the more knowledge that they have. Kids get excited about topics. I know Stuart, I laughed because one of the topics they covered was ocean gyres and garbage patches. And it was just like, it was so science heavy and exciting. So once we kind of had that vision, we went out and we identified high quality instructional materials. So we looked at the DESE Curate sites to see what they kind of ranked high. We also looked at some of the national ranking sites to see which curriculum kind of met those standards. We actually had 3 initially, Wit and Wisdom, CKLA, and Fish Tank. Unfortunately, we couldn't actually execute Wit and Wisdom in terms of visiting a school district to see it in action. It's also very similar to CKLA in a lot of ways, so we didn't feel like it was too bad to kind of see CKLA. And then that's when we identified the schools and visited.
Can I just quickly follow up on that? So the cycle, just so that we all are kind of on the same page in terms of the cycle. So there was the selection and there was the pilot, and now we're at the end of that pilot, right? And so now we're going to select Fish Tank.
Yeah.
And you mentioned a 5-year review cycle. So are we starting that 5-year cycle now? So from here?
27, yep.
So we'll have 5 years to use Fish Tank and apply it, and during that process, we'll be evaluating it and so forth, ongoing.
Yeah, it's kind of like implement, kind of start to see it. Hopefully it's still working its way out to year 2 and 3.
Yeah.
And then 4 and 5, we really dig into the data and see if we're getting
Great. And then by the end of 5, we might be back at looking at other curriculums if Fish Tank isn't meeting our needs. Potentially.
Yeah.
Hopefully not.
But hopefully not.
Yeah.
Potentially.
Okay.
Double down. Are these newer curriculums?
Yes and no.
Yeah.
I say that because both companies are very responsive to teacher input and then kind of adjusting it. So are they new? Not really. I'd be misspeaking if I said they're 10 years old, 12 years old. But I know that they're constantly revised based on teacher feedback. CKLA was revised like last year because one of the critiques that CKLA had was they didn't offer a lot of structured writing. So the new version last year had a lot more writing. When we visited with Triton, they specifically said that we had to actually design a lot of unit writing assessments because it didn't have robust writing. Triton was kind of using like the older version. So they are a little bit older. They've been tried and true, but they're constantly updated. Fish Tank has a bunch of new updates for this year where they added like a student portal so teachers can kind of put grades on Fish Tank. They also responded to some of the other, a little more structured writing. There were quite a couple updates, some different quotes. And Fish Tank also has, usually you have like 5 units a year, but then they also offer alternative units that you kind of move in as you deem fit for your community. And then they also have archived units that you can kind of select from too. So one thing that we're doing, I think that's pretty special, is we have our summer literacy camp, and they're actually utilizing some of the archived units from Fish Tank so that teachers and kids will already get familiar with it. And some of the units, summer literacy camp, it's summertime, it should be kind of fun. So one of the units that they're doing is on Fenway Park. And they read a novel that's it's a mystery of Fenway Park, and they can talk about Fenway Park and baseball and all that stuff.
And then how does this feed into the middle school and the high school? Like how does the curriculum?
I mentioned it a little bit earlier. The thing that I liked about Fish Tank, and throughout the whole process, I didn't get a vote. I was kind of just trying to be very objective. The teachers actually thought I leaned towards CKLA, so I was very happy with that. But the units in Fish Tank remind me very much of our units in grades 6 to 8 and then 9 to 12, where it's kind of teacher design. We have essential questions. It all has authentic textbooks in kids' hands, lots of informational reads to supplement them, lots of writing. So if you actually look at our grade 6, 7, 8 units, they're not as refined as this with a huge online presence, but they're very, very simple. So kids are going to be coming up, our essential question is, what makes a good person? Let's read these texts, let's talk about it, let's write about it, etc. So it'll feed them really nice.
So So you feel good about that it's integrated in the standard. That's excellent, yeah. And then last question, I'll give it to everyone else. I'm kind of reticent to go here, because I think one of the things we do really well in this district is trying to stay current and innovative, but not getting into controversial issues or things that are sort of politically sensitive in the larger sphere. I thought of it because of Thanksgiving. In other communities, people are having these discussions about curricula, and are they over or under indexed on political correctness or DEI? Was there any talk about that? I mean, Thanksgiving would be an interesting one in terms of discussing indigenous cultures and what happens, but it sounded like that was trying to be a sort of come at it from different angles.
Yeah, I mean, so the Thanksgiving unit is basically fact versus fiction.
Okay.
So you kind of dig into what are the facts about Thanksgiving, what's the fiction on Thanksgiving. The fish tank unit really does present diverse voices and diverse texts. I think one of the advantages that we have is the structure that we have in place to really dig into a unit to see if any of that stuff might come up and how we would approach it. I'll give you a very, it's not a silly example, but it's an example. In I think it was grade 1, they have like an animal unit. And one of the paragraphs was a little bit about how animals reproduce. So as a grade level team, we're unpacking the units, whoa, grade 1, let's not use that paragraph. So the teachers just kind of left that out. That's where I think the structures that we have in place to make sure that we know what's coming, that we can anticipate any of those questions, we're going to kind of address them ahead of time. I think also too, having the alternative units, so we can kind of say, what do we think our community needs? And that's when we can kind of pick and choose units.
Sounds incredibly thoughtful, so thank you for all that. Yeah, that sounds good.
I just had another question. So you mentioned, I think you said 166 signed up for the training. I mean, at some point, everybody has to do the training, right?
Yeah.
So
That's actually a great question. So
yeah.
I'll preview this for the teachers for next year. So I've already talked to Sean and Lisa about this. So I'm hoping to replicate those trainings next year, whether it's at PD days that kind of teachers have to be here, or whether it's after school, like on a Wednesday, and then teachers would sign up and then we give them like an in-service credit, et cetera.
Okay.
And I think to your point is so important. We need to all, especially with writing, we all need to be speaking that same language. So we need to make sure everyone's there. So we actually have that in place for next year.
Okay.
And hopefully we get everyone to get involved with it.
Great, thank you. Other questions?
I just have one more thing about how much of, actually it's kind of a two-part question. How much of what you're asking the kids to talk about and think about is like workbook related or is online, and how much is just teacher driven?
So I'm smiling because none of it's workbook driven, none of it's online. So we do have like printable worksheets and stuff that we can utilize, but there's no, there's an online component, but it's not like the kids aren't reading online. Okay. The online component is more about like putting grades in and stuff like that. Okay. Again, the thing that I love about Fish Tank, it's authentic writing. So kids open up your notebook, write about this. And we have actually already started talking about like down in grades like K1 and 2, we do have some worksheets from foundations that specifically teach kids how to begin to do their letters, like, take it to the airplane line. So we've actually been using some of that material and kind of, graphing it onto Fish Tank. So if we ask them to write a textual response, the kids will have a similar looking, format. Yeah. And that's really not K a little bit, but it's more like grade 1 and 2. Yeah. But it's not, they have a nice online component in terms of like the curriculum's all out there for you to see, but not for kids to read. There are no workbooks, none of that stuff. And again, that's one of the reasons why kids and teachers, I think, absolutely love it.
Yeah. Excellent.
Other questions? Is handwriting part of this, like learning cursive?
So they do have language lessons that are built in about writing sentences and stuff like that, but
no, I'm kind of joking.
No, I know. It's
Other questions? Yeah, great presentation. Appreciated the thoroughness and very clear and walking us through the steps. Sounds
and just
great.
real quick, I really appreciate the support that the school committee has given throughout this process. I know we've met a couple times, we've talked about it, but then also Sean and Lisa just really supporting, where we're moving. So that was extraordinary. I really appreciate it.
Great, awesome. Thank you. Great.
Yeah.
Any
Thank you,
final
Dr.
words or questions? Okay, thanks so much, Dr. Abrams.
Great job, Dr. Abrams. Thank you.
And I'm sure Member Higgins would have had questions, but probably also had a chance to ask them during the teaching and learning.
Yeah, teaching and learning committee,
Yeah.
Okay. She had someone she had to deal with. Okay, so moving on to our next item, we have the review of the NHS overnight field trips and a follow-up from our last presentation. Principal Wolf.
Yes.
Well, thank you for having me. I do have to admit it's always tough following Dr. Abrams, but we will do our best. And I'm joined tonight here with Aileen McConey and Aaron Robato-Smith, who are two of our 3 trip advisors who have done some analysis just in terms of their proposals and everything. And then Gary Matlock, who did have a family emergency, so he's not able to be here tonight, but Aileen actually is knowledgeable of his trip and will be able to provide that overview. But before I really hand this over to them, I do want to start just a thank you, because I felt like 2 weeks ago that was a great conversation that you had, and it was quite formative for me to really go back to the office and kind of rethink our structure that we have in place for when teachers are going about trying to organize a trip for our students. And so the first, I don't know if you have this in your packet or not, but it's just really, it's the template that now I'm asking all of the teachers to produce so that everything is a lot more transparent, but then also at the same time sets up the teacher to really make the best decision just based off of the feedback from a couple of weeks ago that, we're doing this and we want to make sure that we have the best quality experience for our students and for our families. So where they have to provide, the cover page with the rationale connected to the curriculum, also the a description of the experiences that students would be having. But then really the biggest piece is the vendor comparison table where they reach out to the different vendors and get the information so that they can make a decision that they feel is kind of in the best interest of their objectives they're trying to achieve with the trip. And really I tried to kind of hit most of the topics that were brought up that's important for a teacher to review, from the cost, location of the hotel accommodations, our tips included, meals included, the type of insurance, are you traveling with other schools or not, are things private, the chaperone to student ratio, and then also the other piece is just, are there actual benefits that a teacher is getting? And so that all of that is also very transparent, and how those benefits might be used or then applied to our students, which historically a lot of those benefits have been used for scholarships if a place offers that. Then the other piece of feedback that was given was now just having a standardized feedback tool as well, so that we can actually collect the information on the students and families' experiences with whichever vendor was part of the trip. And so that will give us historical data to make decisions on, all right, if we've done a couple of trips with one vendor and the data isn't that great compared to others, then that's obviously quite informative in terms of making decisions for future trips. So with that overview, I'm going to pass this along to Aileen and Aaron, and they're just going to provide just kind of a summary of the work that I've asked them to do to kind of dive into this, and they'll be able to provide a rationale for their trips.
Okay, thank you. All right, again, thank you for having us tonight. We appreciate it, actually. And I want to say that I really like the idea of having across the board for every trip a standardized survey. I do get feedback when we go on trips from parents and from students, but it's like, so what did you like best? What didn't you like? testimonials, things like that. So I like it as standard because we can also then start to compare. We do not use the same company for all our trips, and it will help with looking at those kinds of things. All right, so I guess what I'm going to do is to just talk to you first about the trip that we're each going to talk about the trips. I'm going to also include talking about Gary's and the trip that for 2028 that I was putting together. I should say that it's a trip that first came from a student survey. I have a organization of students, Global Scholars Club, and part of their mission is to get feedback, not just from themselves. They're not necessarily kids that go on trips. They're kids that are interested in learning about the world. And this is not a course, it's a club. But one of the things I had them do is to put together a student survey that goes out to all the students in an email. And, you know, we get information back. So we give the kids like a sampler, like would you be more interested in going to Europe or to Asia or to, you know, like starting big, right? You know, what are the kinds of things that would interest you most? And then we give them things they can check off and stuff like that. And that feeds down to then looking at opportunities for a trip that would be putting together. Now, as a art teacher and also as someone who loves to give back, I'm always looking for opportunities of trips that would be both community service-based and also artistic-based. When I can put those two together, those are my most favorite. But anyways, Erin's going to be talking to you about a specific community service trip. So this one is the Alps in the Mediterranean was the one we showed you, or that I should say Principal Wolf showed you 2 weeks ago. So this is through EF. And so I tried to pull out a little more detail in here for you on that. As you look across this page here, or what's up there, you see I've also compared it with World Strides. I wrote down Explorica, they're the same, basically the same company. And then the Global Citizen Program. And the reason I chose to look at these three is that I've worked with all three of them. So I am familiar with how they work, so that if you had some questions, I can answer some of them. And that's important because it usually takes weeks and weeks and weeks to put a proposal together. And we literally had a few days, all right? So I wanted to go with some entities that I already knew, that I'm already working with, and therefore I could help with the comparison better. So we have the Alps in the Mediterranean. The only difference in this is that the first two include Italy, and then the Global Citizen Program, GCP, they are just Switzerland, France, and Spain. But that means in those three countries we have more time. And when you look at the way that the costs break down, EF has a tiered cost program. So the least expensive is when we do not say that it needs to be a private trip up front. Okay. Most of our trips are private because we usually end up taking enough students. So we just start at that price and we're able to go as a private school. But we haven't always. We have sometimes partnered with other schools, and that has been, in some cases, just the best experience of all, because the kids have walked away with new friends that they've made on these trips. We do have some criteria that we have about how we partner with another school if we do. For instance, we don't share bedrooms, and so forth, right? So that's all written into our contract with them. If we wanted to go as a private tour, they break it down into groups of 10 to 19 and then 20 to 29. And you can see that if we wanted to go with a group of, say, 10, then we would offer the trip at $5,884. If we only got 7 kids, we would revert back to the non-private tour, and then that additional money paid would be, if they were, say, all paid up, would be refunded. Okay. If you look at Explorica, their non-private trip is 51, and their private, which is at 15, so they go by 15 instead of 10, is 557. So that's $100 less than EF's lowest private one. And then the Global Citizen trip is proposed as a private tour of 15 with 2 chaperones. And they provide Newburyport with a discount, so the trip is $5,600, but the discount would make it $5,350. I should go back and mention that EF will provide a $200 discount, so you take $200 off that price, and World Stride provides a $150 discount at sign up. So that's the price, but there's a discount. So actually, before I go any further, does anyone have any questions on the pricing?
The discount is because you've worked with them before, or it's because you're doing it early?
No, that's a standard that they have. Now the discounts, so the GCP, they have a personal relationship with Newburyport, so it's all the students get that $300 discount. And I actually didn't ask Jeff if that's ongoing forever until the last date someone can sign up. It is true that with the other 2, the discount does disappear, but I just had 2 students sign up for the Costa Rica trip. I called EF and I said, we can't have just 2 kids not get a $200 discount, so they gave it to them. So there is I have a working relationship with them because I have used them, so I know that you can do that, but they might not know, sometimes teachers might not know that. They can call in and advocate that way from lack of experience. All right, so on to the next thing then. So I incorporated, because I was just talking to Andy, he said that one of the columns he needs is financial aid on this form. And so I put the financial aid in this price section here, okay? So there you can see the $200 discount. That goes to all students, but EF also has a number of scholarships that they offer to schools. The first one we probably won't qualify for because we don't use just one travel company. But if all of our trips were through EF, not counting something like the German exchange trip or those kinds of specialty trips, then they would provide the school with a $5,000 scholarship that the school would then decide how to provide that scholarship to students on however many trips there are. Okay. But if we do not get that $5,000 scholarship because we're using different companies, then if we use EF for an individual trip, then it's a $1,000 scholarship, and there's also a $500 scholarship. In fact, right now, my Costa Rica trip, EF provided $2,000 in scholarships. And I think for the Greece trip, $1,500, because the Greece trip for next year is EF as well. So they do have these scholarship opportunities. All of the companies also do have a kind of like a GoFundMe, so students can use it for raising money. They have like a little thing they can send out to invite people, like for their birthdays or Christmas or whatever, to make donations. So that's another thing we can do. Now, EF and World Strides, they have scholarship programs above and beyond what they're providing for our individual school. So these are the bigger, broader scholarships. With EF, 100 scholarships a year. Students need to fill out a short sort of one-page essay, and then they need to do a 2 to 3 minute video to apply. And that is merit and needs based. And then EF has not EF, but World Strides has an scholarship available for students whose household incomes are $85,000 or under. And you fill out an application, and then they go through a review. And that scholarship, there's not a set like a number at any given time, but the maximum is $650. So there's some additional scholarship monies available for families in need. The Global Citizen Program doesn't have a scholarship program. Any questions on that part? The scholarships or financial aid through the companies. We do work to try to find much more financial aid, especially for families in needs. And this is something I would love as many suggestions about, because I really want students, all students, to know that they can apply. I've literally have taken students for free. And I mean, that was because I'm willing to run around like crazy and talk to businesses. And the PTO every year now donates $1,000. And And that was me talking with them. And so if anyone has other ideas, we need kids to know that they can be part of this.
I had a question. When you said $1,000 or $1,500 for the Costa Rica trip, that's for
That was scholarship.
spread out amongst?
Yeah, how it works is, it was, so the Costa Rica trip, it was $2,000, but it was in increments. One was of 1,000, then they gave me 500, and they gave me another 500.
Based on?
They don't give any stipulations. The money's sitting there at EF. They tell me that that's what's available. I then have the kids fill out an application that is exactly, almost perfectly similar to the ones the seniors fill out to apply for scholarship, except for a few little things that are tweaked and changed to make it about going on a trip, even if you're a freshman, right? But it gets them practice, and I really encourage every kid to fill it out, and their parents have to submit some information. I then partner with Lauren G. She puts together the team that looks at all the applications, and then they tell me what student and how much. And that's how it works. So it's out of my hands, as it should be. Okay. All right, so going back to here then, hotel accommodations. EF is not, EF said that they didn't want to say that they're going to guarantee central city hotels because of the typical, the design of that particular trip. The hotels are often outside of the major city, but they're in a walkable town or city where there are shops and restaurants and things like that. So activities that we could do after, if we go back to the hotel, where we can do things outside of the hotel. And that's especially true like in the area of Italy that we'll be in, where it's harder to be right in the sort of the center. Whereas the other two do say that they will provide hotels that are either near the city center or near a major attraction within 30 to 45 minutes. Tips are included in the EF pricing and in the global citizenship pricing. For the Explorer/World Strides, the tips would be an additional $132. I always like to collect an extra $25 above whatever they say, and I put that into the student. I have a student account for trips, so I put that money into student account. Then when it's time to go on the trip, I fill out a form, so that early on, because it takes a while, so I can get the money out, so it's all accountable. And then it goes as an emergency fund. And I've used it for kids that, lost their wallets and didn't have any money, or they just ran out of money, or, whatever other little emergencies that might happen. So it gives me $300 cash available. Above and beyond that, I use my own money and then look for reimbursements. I have myself personally had to put out up to $1,000 for a situation. So it happens. Now, if I don't use all that money up, it usually means it's time for gelato for everybody, or something, or occasionally the money comes back and goes back into the account. Meals are included with all of them, so the trip to this trip is in Europe. It's typically lunch is during free time, so usually we go to some section of a city or a town or whatever, and our tour director will explain about the area that we're in and where and what they'll see. Like for instance, when you're in Madrid, if you go down this street, this is the leather street, where you're gonna find pocketbooks and whatever. And if you go down this street, that's where you're gonna find, anime. No, you're not. I'm talking about Madrid, but I'm just making that up. But tell us about each street, and then what kind of food they're gonna find down. And then the kids partnered up. They can never be by themselves. Partnered up. They go and they do explorations. They know where they can come back to, where the chaperone, at least one or two chaperones are always waiting at. And of course they have our emergency contact information. So lunches for this particular trip will not be included typically. Breakfast and dinner are. All the trips have insurance coverage, so it's a travel insurance plan, and the companies don't necessarily just automatically put it on. But for my trips anyways, make it a part of the trip. So unless someone can show me that they have some kind of an annual plan already in existence, which they usually don't for their child, I have it put on for the particular trip. So this covers things like if we have a flight interruption, lost luggage, if there's accommodation issues, but also major medical and things like that. Now, I have done most of my trips, it's true, through EF, and of course, once you start to get familiar with a company, how it works, and the amount of time it takes to put one of these things together, especially because we customize so much of our trips. I mean, literally, having a local professional photographer taking us on a night walk, photography walk of London. I found that person, I hired that person, we put it into so it's a lot of work. So, for that reason, I want to make sure that, everything that can be covered is covered through insurance. We have, working with EF, I have had emergencies and they brought the parents out to be with the kids, like during COVID. We had kids come down with COVID on the last day. I had to stay behind with them. They put the kids up in a 5-star hotel, in a rooms that were like bigger than this, because that was all that was available. It was great for the kids. And then they got the parents out there to be with the kids, and that was all covered within the plan. The other companies, although I've never used their insurance, it works the same way. And then a lot of the stuff I'm talking about is the same thing that Erin will talk about. So I'll skip on some of the others when we get to them. So don't feel like, oh my God, we're doing this for 3 trips.
No, this is helpful.
I'll get into the key things.
You can get into the key things, and then
Yeah.
for the other trips, we've all received this information.
Yeah.
So I think people pay attention to what Ms. Marconi is saying, and if you have specific questions about the other trips,
Yeah.
keep those in mind.
And I'll stop at each section in case there are some, it's
Yeah.
easier to ask questions
Thank you.
per section. I will say that there are levels of the insurance plan. So typically we go with the basic, that's usually all that's really needed, but some people do want to get the cancel for anything plan. Those are expensive plans, okay? They're like usually $300 or $400. I did put down what that would be additionally if a person wanted to do that. And I do have families that sometimes opt for that. So with the insurance company, it's not theirs, it's just the insurance company that they have contracted with. A kid could break their leg just before going, and that would count as an excusable reason, right? Mm-hmm. But a kid just saying, I don't want to go anymore, is not excusable. That would not be, they wouldn't get their money back for that. But if they bought the cancel for any reason, then when the kid says, I don't want to go anymore because my girlfriend's on that trip and I'm not happy with her anymore, whatever it is, right? They're teenagers.
Right.
Okay? Then it would be covered. So a few people will opt for that, but most go with the basic. Any questions on the insurance? Is there shared
Member
transport?
Ricky does have a question.
I'm so sorry.
Are they still using Erica, their own company?
No, you would ask that. I'm forgetting the name of the company right now, but I can send that to you.
And then World Strides, are they using their own company, self-insured?
Yes, yeah. And then I actually don't know who the Global Citizen Program utilizes either.
They're not big enough to insure themselves.
Yeah. All right, so is there transport with other schools? If we do the non-private, then yes, we would be most likely partnered with other schools. I've actually taken small groups that haven't been partnered, just because there's no other group traveling the same time, the same trip. But if we are partnered, as I mentioned, we have criterias that we've written into our contract to be, for instance, they have to be high school students only. We're not partnering with middle school or with college students, which are other kinds of trips that they run, and they could, right? And stuff like that. So we have criteria that we have. We can purchase a private tour, but I didn't offer it as that. My initial offer was just to have it as an open tour and see what our numbers would be. If we start to get, I really would, I think that's the way I would rather run it, but if the school committee would prefer, we could go to that, like that 20, it would increase the price, but the price would actually be in comparison to the other two. All right, so that's the same across the board for all of them. All of them do, all of these travel companies, they run usually small group, most of them will have some kind of like small group option, and you pay more for that. And then they also have a shared group option. For instance, the Global Citizen Program, the way they do their shared group is they might take someone like me and say, would you like to be a teacher leader with us? And I said, sure, we're going to go to Peru. I go, great. And then they recruit students from all over the country. And there might be one kid coming from Wisconsin and 12 kids from Mississippi, and we all meet in one place like Atlanta, and then we go on the trip together. And so the kids don't even know each other. That's their, I think that's a cool way of doing it. Here we would be partnered with another school. There would be another school, another group leader. We get to know who they are ahead of time. We get to work with them ahead of time to come up with our strategies for how we would manage our students and such like that before we travel. Any questions on sharing transportation? It's not just sharing the trip, I would say. By the way, that doesn't mean that if we get, say we're in Barcelona and we want to say go on a bicycle tour, we have 2 hours available to do that, and the other groups want to go to, I don't know, a museum or something, we can go and do that bicycle tour. We can do that, we can separate and then come back. Educational credit. EF and World Strides offer high school credit for free, so students can get, because they're both accredited here through NEASC in Massachusetts and actually in all states. And our students do utilize that, especially the sophomores. They also both offer college credit, 3 undergraduate credits, so EF is through SNHU, and it costs $300. I will say World Strides has a nice thing. It's 3 credits through George Mason University, and that's actually free. So kids can choose to do the college or the high school. Obviously, there's more work with the college one, so that's why kids will choose one or the other, because they're both free. But $300 is pretty darn good. Also, EF offers college essay tutoring for free. So as a kid, if the kid is writing a college essay and they want to incorporate their experiences, they can work with a tutor at EF to help them with their college essay. And I don't know what that costs, because I don't have a kids, so I never paid for that, but I think it's a lot. Okay. And then the Global Citizenship Program doesn't at this time offer any, they're not accredited, so they do not offer credit. Any questions on the educational benefits? Okay. Advisor compensation. First of all, in all of these, the chaperones travel for free with every paying X number of students, so it's typically 6. Some companies, it can be up to 10. Okay. And this would include airfare, lodging, admissions into whatever activities, if they were paid, if like a ticket to a play, and included meals. Chaperones would be responsible for their tips, their insurance, their spending money. That was hard to say. And then EF provides a stipend, so the stipend can be in points, or in, or it can be in a check. Typically, for instance, if there's 15 students, that has a check value of $500. This is in the state of Massachusetts. It cannot be used in a personal manner, so this money or the points, because you can take the points are worth more for students if you do it internally. So if I ask EF, like right now I have 450 points. So if I ask EF to send that to me as a check, which they would make out to now the city of Newburyport instead of Newburyport High School, which is how they used to make it out, and then my goal would be then to deposit into my student account. That would be 450. But if I keep it at EF and use it for scholarship, then it's worth 1.5. Every point's worth 50 cents more. So a lot of times I do that because it gets me some more scholarship money. Teachers may also receive based on the number of students. I think I just said that. And then the other thing is the state does allow for professional development. I will say that I went on a training tour with EF when I first started, and that was covered through points so that I could learn how to run these trips. And I've also done a professional development course through SNHU and EF, and that also was about I don't remember what it was, but let's say like 1,000 points, and that covered the cost of the professional development. And that part of the course was that I went to Poland to be part of it. So my goal there for that course was that I'm an art teacher, but I now teach global citizenship, and I wanted to look at how I can utilize both my art experience and my needs for teaching global citizenship, especially because we do a lot of focus on sustainability issues, and I wanted to incorporate that properly. It's similar, very similar as far as World Stride is concerned. And then for the Global Citizen Program, they just have the coverage for the chaperones to travel for free. And that's it.
Great. So
questions on that part?
Yeah, so I'm gonna ask people to ask questions, but I also want to just be mindful that we're not going to go through that level of detail for every trip.
No.
Okay? A lot of information was provided in the packet at our request. The principal and his staff at this high school have put a lot of effort into preparing for tonight in a very short period of time. So I just want to be respectful of that, and I also want to say that I think you guys do a great job. I'm really happy at the types of trips you provide to students, and I'm appreciative that you're always willing to be responsive to our requests for fine-tuning and improving, because we have asked, for example, for you to show us participation numbers. You provided that. We've asked about scholarships. We've asked about financial participation. So I'm super excited that you guys are so responsive to us. I don't honestly think that we as a school committee need to be making decisions about individual trip costs. I would defer to the staff recommendation. I think it's helpful for you guys to inform us about how you came to your decision. But if we're starting to get into splitting hairs about $300 here and $400 here, I think that's a little overreach on the part of the school committee. So I appreciate the level of detail. I think it's fine to provide that to us, but I think going forward, like tonight, we're not going to say, when it comes down to it, we're going to hear from the staff the recommendation. If we think the staff recommendation is a good one, we should vote for that. If we have concerns about the staff recommendation, let's have a conversation about that. But I don't want us getting into splitting hairs about the costs and things like that. So that's my preface. With that, ask questions. Who would like to go first? Member Shaw.
In terms of EF, what does their community service pieces look like on past trips and then for this trip that is you guys are going to do?
Well, I will address a really great community service trip that we did, and I will say the one coming up Costa Rica is a service trip. We've done now twice the marine conservation in the Dominican Republic. And we've done it like sort of every other year. And that is what Aaron, who came with me last year on that trip, was it last year or the year before? The year before, yeah. That's what he is proposing for his trip. We have built a really good relationship with the foundation in the Dominican Republic that is doing the community service. We have an incredible tour director there that we work with that can get us into anything. I mean, we've been into National League baseball clubs, and he gets us playing baseball with all the little kids in the little Boca Chica community and that. This particular one is for example, I'm using this one because this is the one that I have the most knowledge of. The students spend between 5 and 6 hours a day, sometimes up to 8, working the community service. And it starts out usually with about a half an hour class, because this is a marine conservation. So we're working with a small organization that's cleaning up the Bay of Boca Chica, which is a poorer community, coastal communities where the locals go when they go to the beach and stuff like that. And so there's a lot of pollutants that have gotten into the waters and things like that. And they had a beautiful coral reef, and over time that coral reef was destroyed. They have mangroves, and the mangroves are piled up with debris. So the kids learn about the tropical fish, they learned about the coral reef and how, what's happening to it there and what they're doing to try to restore it. And the kids learn how to, like, for instance, clean the coral reef, how to tie it onto structures. And we also learned about the mangroves and how to plant them. They had a hurricane that had gone through that destroyed much of the mangroves that had been growing there, like over 1,000 plants. So we worked, I think we planted around 300 or 400 mangroves before we left. The kids cleaned out of the actual islands about 3 tons of rubbish. So they're doing a lot of stuff. And it's all the kids didn't, actually on this trip, one of the things I love about it is there's actually maybe 30 minutes of free time, and that's in the airport. And the kids don't even know that they never had free time. You know, like, all right, we're done with this. Let's go. We're gonna go play baseball with the local kids in this field. And the field is just filled with rubbish. And so, like, okay, let's start picking up some of this rubbish so we can play, right? And okay, well, we've done that. Let's go, you know, there's this really cool bat cave. We can go there and we can go explore it and maybe go swimming in it because it's hot, you know. So they have time for cultural things. We went and we learned how to dance and went out dancing at several different places. But they didn't know that they were having such a great time. They just never really realized, oh, I never got to just me and my buddy go off, and kept them out of trouble too, see. So I was, you know, my experience with when we went to Belize, it was not a community service trip, but we put community service as part of it. We actually got a trip. The trip I looked at, based on what the kids wanted to do, was adventures in Belize. And I said, all right, great, but one of the things the kids want is we want to connect with local people. So we went and we worked at a school, and we and the kids, you know, talked with them, did some English with them, they did sports with them. We helped them with doing some singing and reading and stuff like that. We spent a whole entire day, even though it wasn't a community service trip. So try to put that into every trip, and we can customize the trips to do this. When we came back, the kids were so enthralled. They collected. They reached out to that school, found out that what they wanted were some fans, because they, like the day we were there, was like 105. It was horrible, and we're out in the sun the whole time. And the thing is that the school has no air conditioning, and most of the fans don't work either. They're ceiling fans. So they asked, could we get fans for them? So the kids did a fundraiser, and I sent the money to my tour director, who works the EF tour director, so that he would buy the fans for the school. And they told us exactly what they wanted. So the idea was, and then we got a thank you back from the school. The idea being, what do the people there need and want, right? And what can we do for them? You know, like if we went further, they wanted a shed, but you know, and I said, well, we have other things to do. No, we got them fans.
Yes, my
So
son's on that trip.
that's EF. What about the other two?
I have not done community service with the other two, so I cannot speak to that.
Why don't we ask about the trips that are in front of us tonight?
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, so
These
I think
two.
your question was more general about community service, what types of
My
community
trip's
service?
gonna have that
Okay.
component.
No, that's-
Gonna be the example.
So why don't we, yeah,
What?
you're asking about a specific trip?
Well, there's 3 trips being presented here. just spoke about the EF community service piece. I'm interested in what the other two.
Well, there are 3 different locations.
Right, you had asked about community service. I'm not offering a community service trip. My trip is the Alps and the Mediterranean.
No community service. Okay.
No, it's a cultural trip. So we'll be learning dancing, doing
So
cooking
do you want to hear about the
classes,
trip that has
folklore.
community service, or do you want to finish talking about the Alps one?
I'd rather hear about more community service.
Okay, so Aaron, do you want to? Yeah, that'd be great.
want.
Yeah, why don't you talk about that for a few
Do you want
minutes?
to go, Gary?
Yeah, no, you can.
Yeah, so I went with Aileen on this trip 2 years, or a year and a half, hours, whatever it was, and really just fell in love with the people. The tour director, he's amazing, and she had already had a relationship with them. And the kids just had such a great time. The feedback was outstanding. So really we spent, I think it was almost 4 days of the time we were down there. Every day was something different on the conservation side. So they were learning all of those aspects of how to clean the coral, how to be careful with it, how to rebuild it. And ultimately the class that they did was the why, right? Why is this happening? What's going on there? And the woman who kind of runs the program, she owns this little inn, and her dad, owned it before her, and it's really a family-run program, which is awesome. And they are helping just that whole area kind of see how little bits can help and support through that. Because it is very dirty, and I think they're educating as much as they can. So our students were just so excited to be able to do that. So they got to snorkel and learn while they were doing that. And then we went out to the mangroves and were able to clean up out there and then bring back the baby mangroves that they told us how to cut. And then we redid those in the new coral reef area that they're building. So I think one of the main reasons I wanted to go back was about, 6 or 7 months ago, they had this huge 500 miles worth of algae come in and really ripped everything apart again. So they're rebuilding again. It wasn't oh no, what do we do? It was, all right, here we go, and then start over again. So I want to go back and do that with another group in the same place to be able to kind of help them realize, like, hey, we did all this work before and it got wiped out, we got to do it again. So it was really helpful. So to answer your question, I don't have information on the other two just because I haven't done those trips with those. And they are in different locations within the Dominican, because that one's specific to EF. The other companies we looked at had one on the North Shore doing similar things as well, but I haven't been a part of those.
Can I make a mention too? I mentioned that we have a working relationship with this organization, and for instance, in my class, I've had them Zoom in to talk about things going on there with the conservation. And one of the things, I recommended to Aaron to maybe do this trip again to build, so we can build up a relationship with the people down in the DR, because we're a coastal town. We have our barrier island, and to me, and the kids are really interested in marine conservation. And to me, it could be an ongoing thing where every other year or 2 years or 3 years, we go down there and we work down there with them. But in between, we're building up sort of the ability to have some reporting, maybe have some kind of online class, and things like that. And they're very open to that kind of thing. So it's building a relationship. That's the reason I suggested that he go back to that one, not just because we've already done it, but because it's a relationship.
And Tasha's more than happy, she's the one woman who runs down there, to jump on those calls. And so once we get this trip going, if we go with EF, that we'll have her, meeting with our students before we even get there, so they'll feel comfortable with her when they get it, which is just amazing to go through that process and have that connection. I mean, I can give you anecdotal. We had one of our students that went with us on the trip. She came back and then did an internship out at Parker River this past year because she wanted to be in environmental. And now she's going to, a college. She's going to Hobart and William Smith to be able to do that same thing. So it's an amazing to just see those, even if it's one student that did that, was just worth it.
Awesome. All right, other questions about the trips in front of us? We have Japan, Dominican Republic, and the Alps. Yeah, go ahead.
So I would echo the Vice Chair's comment about you guys are doing great work. The fact that any of these trips go, no one gets hurt, and they're outside of Newburyport, that's the win.
Yeah.
I diverge from the Vice Chair on the cost. $300 is a lot of money, especially when we use the examples of coffee every day. Somebody buys their coffee every day, why can't we just spend $30 there? When we talk about raising athletic fees for $25 and we have a problem doing that, 300 is more than 25. I have a problem with that. And above all of that, having been in the industry prior, I find EF to be lackluster on so many levels. But again, the fact that you're using them and getting kids out of here is the win. It might not be our purview to say you can't go or you shouldn't go, but track record, statistically, percentage, at some point, hopefully it doesn't, something will happen on an EF tour. And there are thousands upon thousands of comments, there's thousands upon, well, there's hundreds of lawsuits. And we talk about stipends and things like that, and I sent around the article today, teacher in Holyoke, $7,000 for her stipend. Every single company besides Global Citizen does pay a stipend, does give rewards, does do trainings. And all of those things, whether it affects you, I'm not saying it does, but that does affect some, and it shouldn't. But again, the fact that you're getting them out of here, that is the win, regardless of who you choose. And the work that goes into planning a trip is immense. The psychological toll it takes before, during, and after is immense. The amount of responsibility you shoulder is immense. So the fact that you're doing it again, kudos to you guys. And thank you for doing that.
So Member Ricky, I think a lot of this is outcome from your comments last time, which I think we all appreciate because you're coming at this from a different perspective in terms of actual, experience. And I think with that input, I think a good takeaway for you guys is, you have some relationships with this company, and I know we don't just use EF, but just keep in mind some of the things that Member Ricky is raising, because for all the glows, just make sure that you're also thinking about some of the things that there are not all glows, right? And,
Right. And that's, of course, true of all these companies.
It's true, but I think just hearing this feedback for you guys,
Yeah.
again, like we want to have some confidence that you guys are evaluating these programs and not just going with what you're comfortable with, because you do have to, maybe there's a trip that or a relationship you built with a community and so forth, but that shouldn't negate the evaluation of other options, which I think as a result of our feedback, you guys have put that together. So I think going forward, just make sure that you're doing that, maybe not in 2 weeks, but doing it before, maybe thinking more comprehensively about these trips, and just before you go ahead and plan them, think about these questions that we brought up and what Member Ricky has brought up, and the feedback you might get from the survey, like that. There might be other models out there that work a little better for the.
I think that's a big piece of it as well too. We have tons of feedback from, at least from the trips that I've gone with Aileen, and the reason that I want to be a leader is because she's been such a great mentor in doing that. And I know she's not always going to be with us forever here. So, other people are going to have to take on these big responsibilities. And I hope myself and a few other people will do that. But the feedback we've gotten from students, at least from the trips we have, has been amazing. And the most fun that they've had has been during the conservation piece or working with the kids and the locals.
Yeah.
I mean, we're doing zip lining, we're doing, cabin and dive, and that's what their piece, that's what they're taking away. So to your point, yes, that's why we
Yeah, I mean, 100%. Like the day with playing soccer with the kids was the highlight of Henry's trip. And they did all these great things in Belize, but that was what
Anyway, and that was that 100-degree weather.
Yes. Member
One other thing.
Oh, sorry, Member Ricky, go ahead.
One other thing, this level of detail, I'm new, but I don't think it existed before. So the fact that you brought that is comforting to know that that is now happening.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And on a second note, any company that's not going to give you a discount, maybe you do this. If you just push hard enough, absolutely, they will give you that discount back.
Yep.
And just go up the chain until they do.
Yep.
So,
Member
luck.
Lugar, did you have something to say?
Yeah, it's not so much.
The person to pick the mind of, I think.
Yeah, no, he's quite valuable on that front. Thank you for your passion. I mean, you guys clearly love doing this, and it's clearly a labor of love, which is excellent. I think part of the general interest or concern is not so much with how the trips are run. That's quite clearly done with a lot of expertise and passion and knowledge and experience. So it's more just the world we live in, and my gosh, these trips are expensive. That's what it is. And so, when we look at the number, it's really great to see 3 different comparisons and how much that, I mean, it sort of is what it is. I mean, as far as we can tell, half of Scotland remortgaged their homes to come to Boston to see World Cup games. I mean, yeah, so thank you for this, but, and the context is really helpful, because, $5,000 going forward, does that look like $7,000? And, if you've had a kid go on it, you know what the reference points are, but that's just part of the general interest and thought, is how we can make these affordable for kids in Newburyport and support it. So that was great to hear about the scholarships and all that. So thank you for the level of detail.
And I think we hear you, let's push.
Yeah.
I mean, I love that the PTO has started giving a contribution, but yeah, we continue to talk about how can we make these trips more affordable, whether it's, community members. I mean, I think you have a way to donate, but we appreciate your efforts on that front too, that you've been trying to make these more affordable.
That's a big thing. I really want every kid that wants to go, and so it's not just finding more money, because as I say, a lot of it has been over the years me, by myself, doing it. I want kids to know that they can sign up.
Yeah.
And I try, but I think somehow we need to have even better messaging, because I know we're missing some kids that probably want to sign up for a trip, but they don't because they're afraid to.
Right. Yep.
Or parents that are afraid to.
Yeah.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That'll be an ongoing problem
Yeah.
with travel in
But
general.
somehow we can improve it.
Yep.
I know it.
Well, it's important. I mean, you know that, so. Anybody else have other comments? Yeah, Member Shaw?
I mean, I think, for EF, I understand you guys have a long-term relationship, but I think it's important to be open to other tour groups. I mean, there's a lot of, different information. I mean, just yesterday, the state, penalized EF tours for paying public school teachers to choose their firm.
That wasn't just yesterday.
Well,
Yeah.
I want to.
Well, it was older than that as well.
Yeah, and it wasn't just yesterday.
Over a year ago,
Yeah.
EF put a freeze on all of their reward program for math teachers. Massachusetts is the only state that this is prescribed to. All other states, there's no issue. Almost all of the companies have some kind of a incentive for teachers, because most teachers aren't paid to do this. And also because they want to try to develop a working relationship with that school. EF was not the one cited originally. But the commission sent out a notice to all travel companies. And so to say that they wanted to look at everyone's rewards, and so EF went right away, because they're the biggest one in the industry, and their U.S. headquarters is in Boston, where they're accredited through NEHA, so they wanted to right away get a handle on this. You're going to see that they were fined, and you'll see that the other companies probably will be too.
Right.
But they're just the first ones that have come up with an agreement. And the fine was to cover for, never did this, but it used to be allowed, actually, even within the state, that you could take a personal stipend, or you could use the money to go on vacation, right? It was only this year that the ethics rules specifically said, you can't do that. This is the first, I would say, last school year, right? So they were basically saying, instead of fining teachers, like that teacher in Holyoke or whatever, fine us. We'll cover the penalties. And then, who knows what the penalties would have been, but they're a big company, and it was a big, so they said, well, this is what we want.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how that all ended up, but as I said, the state has requirements and EF is abiding by those requirements. And I'm sure all the others will too, because they have to.
Yeah, I mean, I gotta agree with Ricky about, they've done okay for Newburyport up till now, but I think it's just, there's a lot, I know from other districts, people have had some significant concerns and things have happened. So I'm just putting that out there, it's just a matter of time, as he said. And I'm also had some personal experience with one of my kids going through one of the programs that was less than stellar. Again, it was going back to, 2016, but nonetheless.
Was that the Cuba trip?
Yes.
Because we had an incredible, that was why I went back again. I'd taken the kids there twice. It was a phenomenal experience. And
I don't think her student survey probably.
But that's a personal thing.
Related, was not clearly feeling it was all jiggy. So anyways, I mean, I think that's the thing. It's like really looking at the student surveys and the family surveys. And unfortunately, you go online and you find all of this negative information. I'm sure you
but
might
I
for
can
the
find
others.
that for any one of the companies. That's the point, is that we've had great experience and we've had good, I won't say I've always liked every hotel. I got a free upgrade in London because I didn't like the hotel the trip before that. So I said, you got to do something, because that one hotel, it was the one in Paris, and I said, you got to do something because the Paris hotel was terrible. It wasn't unsafe. I just didn't like that it took us by train so long to get into the center. So, which we did because we went to plays and all that kind of stuff, even in Paris. But they upgraded us for the London one. You got to know how to. I have a relationship, so I can push. But I'm not saying that I don't have any control over what anyone wants to use, and we are using other companies. So I think it's up to. I think, like you were saying, the teacher should know what they feel is the best for the particular thing they want their students to learn and get out of the trip. Will a trip be sometime unsuccessful? Probably sometime.
Yeah.
Get out of Newburyport.
Yeah. Okay, so moving on. Member Higgins, yes.
Thank you all for your work so much on this. I think these trips are incredible, quite expensive. I think we all know that. And in general, I think that the practice that you've put together today and what you put in our packet today is really great. It's amazing. And hopefully it's not too burdensome for you, that can just become an overall practice where, you're bringing it to us to vote to approve. I would love to vote to approve your recommendation, and instead of seeing just the business catalog, we're seeing like your side-by-side comparison of, we looked at a few different options, this is the one we want to go with, and this is why. I'd be really happy with that. And if there's a row on there that could be student satisfaction, right? Like, that would be great. What was the student satisfaction from 1 or 2 years in the past? In the terms of the surveys, we know that the principal said you had that data, you said you had that data. We'll just add that row on satisfaction so we can make sure that, kids like this in the past, we feel comfortable about doing it again. And I think that this would just be a nice framework for us to move forward.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay. Other comments? Irma, anything? Okay. All right, so what we have in front of us, we had the details, explanation of each of the trips provided in our last packet, and then we have the detailed comparisons tonight. So the vote that we would be taking tonight is, sorry, I'm going back to my cheats. And we can vote on them individually if that's what people would prefer, or we can vote them all together. It doesn't really matter. So we would have the Japan April 2028 trip, the Dominican Republic February 2028 trip, and the Alps and Mediterranean 2028 trip. Are those all, is staff recommending all of those be EF trips? No. Can you explain?
EF, Gary's is World's Dry.
Okay, can you just match them with the trip? I'm not remembering whose is whose.
Gary is Japan.
Okay,
And
that's World
that
Strides.
would be World Stride, that's his recommendation.
Okay.
Aaron's is the Dominican Republic, and he's recommending EF. I want to tell you the truth, that I didn't get a chance to really talk to Jeff too much. I just said, can you put something together? I'm not really excited about the Explorica one, because it's just too similar,
Sure.
and so I would rather be with EF.
Sure.
I would say right now, I'll say EF, but
Yeah.
if we vote on it, could I have the
I don't,
opportunity?
yeah, we're
either
just
or?
approving because we're not, it's not our purview to
Right.
dictate the specifics to that level.
Okay.
But I think if you do change the group, it would be great to get an update to us.
Oh, yeah.
To come back and tell us that and why.
Right.
You know, so I think we're just approving the trips.
Yep.
We have a lot of detail in front of us. We understand what you've evaluated, but it's just helpful to know who you're recommending so that we have that in mind. You're not bound to that. If you do need to switch, you can come back. Okay. So everybody heard that. It would be consistent, approving those trips consistent with policy JJH.
I move to approve all 3 proposed trips consistent with JJH.
Great.
Second.
Any further discussion?
Yeah, I would just say, try to keep in mind these in the future. It sounds like there's enough members with concerns about a specific outfit that please just make sure that they're weighted against other options, and that if there are superior options at a better price or with higher quality, that to consider that. I think that's a reasonable level of concern, that's all. Thanks.
Yeah. Thanks, Member Boner. Member
Just for
Rickey?
fun, I would say we amend the policy at some point so all of our trips are private, or there's some sort of
Practice
process with the other
less
school.
policy, because if
Right.
it was a policy, I think it'd be like that. But I understand what you're saying. So just like generally, let's
Yeah.
try to have them be private where we can.
Yeah, or some other vetting process if we are forced to go with another school because of numbers. Because again, going is what's most important.
Okay, good feedback. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The vice chair votes aye.
I'm abstaining.
And one
I'm gonna
abstention.
abstain.
1, 2, 3, 4,
You still
and
have
2 abstentions. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. All right.
Thank you so
Thank you very
And
much.
please keep us
Thank you.
updated. All right, moving on to the next item, AI ad hoc guidelines update.
All right.
All right. So I just want to give credit to, this is our committee that we worked. We had 3 or 4 meetings. And myself, Lisa Furlong, Ethan Manning, Tom Abrams, Mike Morse, who is really instrumental and just, we're so fortunate to have.
Member Rickey, if you guys need to have a conversation, because you, sorry.
We're so fortunate to have Mike Morris in the district, heading up technology department. He brought a lot of experience to the conversations. Erin Rich, Mullen occupational therapist. Jill Moran, biology teacher at the high school. And a lot of these teachers are also parents, former parents of graduates. Emily Stoller, resident special ed teacher and also a parent. Kevin Sheridan, math teacher at the high school. Megan Mahler, history teacher. Mr. Boger, Ms. Shaw, school committee reps. Ray Phelps, community member. And Karen Scott Ewell, community member parent. Christine Eanes, Ellen Benson, and Danielle Baptiste. So community members because they also have a background in technology. And then Ms. Benson is also an attorney, so we really felt like we had a cross-section of a lot of different people to provide us input. So I'm just going to switch back over, because I just want to make sure I recognize them and really thank them for them volunteering their nights and coming out for some great discussions. Let me just switch over to the school committee packet. In a couple of years, AI will be doing this for me. So I just, for the, we kind of just go through this process, and I know we have other bigger topics coming up next. But once again, I think we really tie everything back to our strategic plan and Portrait of a Graduate. And that was kind of our grounding principles. So our guiding principles, we looked at questions to consider. So we had multiple meetings, but we also had small groups, we had input. We took all of the community members' ideas, insights, and we had them all on post-it paper, and we kind of pulled them all together. But we looked at compliance and privacy around AI, safety, appropriateness, accuracy and fairness. We wanted to take a look at a human-first framework where we value and promote genuine human interactions among students. So this, these questions around these different questions to consider, the human connection, learning process, schools are the really looking at tying the real world bridge between schools and AI products. Other questions and areas we considered is AI literacy, responsible use, and then really kind of looking at ongoing evaluation, with technology and AI. So where we landed, and these are some of our guidelines and ideas, and Mr. Boger said during the last meeting, we feel like this is kind of a good foundation for us to start moving in to the next school year. But as we look at, everything's in your packet, I know you read through everything, but really looking at the ethical practices around AI, and then really utilizing some of these guiding principles for our teachers, along with students on AI expectations. We also talked about prohibited use for staff and AI tools, and really making sure that whatever we're utilizing, it's safe for privacy. And this was why it was great to have Mike Morse here, because there was a lot of questions like, what do we already have in place? And he could answer a lot of those questions, which was really, really helpful for us. And it's something that he's watching on a daily basis. With the advancement of technology, he's kind of like the gatekeeper for all of us in the Newburyport Public Schools. Himself and that whole team is very, very skilled. We had a lot of great conversations on academic integrity and misrepresentation. There's all the different bullet points under there for us. And then we started talking about, the deep fakes, likeness, and, falling under some of these guidelines and policies. Really what was important, some guiding principles around teaching and learning. When, we had great conversations and guidelines of when would AI be useful, and when could it be for the teachers and the teaching and learning be problematic. So these are just some examples that we've come up with around the teaching and learning piece. We really feel what came out of this is AI literacy, responsible use for AI, and working with some of the high school teachers and talking with Andy Wolf, probably down the road of having a prerequisite, like an AI course. So the idea would be to kind of combine AI personal finance course with the AI technology, and recommending that when technology came out a few years back, when in previous experience as a principal, and we were adopting one-to-one initiative, one of the first high schools, we really thought it was important. So we had a course with Web 2.0 for freshmen. They had to take that course and really talked about social media, and really at the time, before AI, but it was at the time of when you go online, understanding what source is real and what source isn't. We're so far away from that back in the day, but we also had a personal finance course. So working with Mr. Wolf and kind of maybe developing some sort of that prerequisite for all students to take. One semester of AI technology and then the other semester of personal finance. We had a great conversation. We really felt another area was the professional development and working with teachers and staff to really continue these discussions. So this is kind of where we landed moving into next year. The other important piece, we feel like taking these guidelines and you know how important student voice is for us, is to really start working with some of the student groups going into next year and looking at these guidelines and just seeing, obviously this isn't perfect, but we feel it's a great draft moving into next year and gives us exactly that foundation of what we are talking about. And we also believe that the our FinCom meeting that we had the other day is possibly having something on this for our agenda for the retreat in the summertime. The school committee and central office kind of talk about moving into next year. What do these guidelines look like? And then, you know, more feedback from the school committee. But I just want to credit the committee that we had and obviously Lisa Furlong, and I thought we landed in a pretty good place for right now. I'm not sure, Member Boger and Ms. Shaw, if you want to
Anything you guys want to add?
some input to that.
Yeah, no, I think this is really well done, and these are broad guidelines, they're not policies. I think that's important to state, and I think, as the superintendent suggested, there was some discussion, you know, some of us got sort of ahead of ourselves and were like, well, you know, we should be training the students on this, and that's sort of maybe down the line, maybe this is sort of a foundational piece. Can we sort of put some guardrails and some guidelines, for lack of a better term, in place so that people can get to the same point? We talked about, you know, student use versus faculty use. You know, some people thought those should be the same policies or protocols or guidelines, and some people didn't. So I like it when I get really excited about something and kind of bang on the walls and say, why aren't they doing more about this? And then the staff comes back with something way better than I could have ever come up with. So that happens once a year, and it happened on AI. So thank you for all that. I don't have a lot to add. I think we're in a good place, and a much better place than we were last year, because nobody was anywhere on this stuff last year.
Michelle, anything?
Yeah, no, I agree about the guardrails. I mean, I feel like, you know, as long as the guidelines are really clear for, you know, faculty as well as students, and you know, and of course my perspective is making sure that everybody's social emotional health remains positive, and you know, there's, you know, those caveats, but I think that those are the things that, you know, we're going to have our eyes on, you know, going forward. So.
And my understanding is you're going to have this sort of committee kind of stay together for the coming school year?
That was one of the pieces we felt like, I mean, I think we made a lot of progress, and then, you know, one of the recommendations was for us to reconnect with the committee to kind of see where we're at as we're going into the school year. And I think it would be important once we also gather the student feedback too, regarding some guidelines, because the kids probably have, you know, as we say, sometimes better ideas than we do, or some areas we didn't even think about that they could bring to the forefront.
Because they're living it.
Yeah, they're living it.
Member Ricky.
I'm just curious. First of all, this is amazing, and I think you're just at the tip of the iceberg. I can't fathom how large AI is, you know. But my question is, are you looking at just overall AI, or are you concentrating on specific companies' purposes, or?
Yeah, I think for us, it's really looking, I mean, we're saying AI, but just I think in general technology.
Okay.
And then anything, like if we're looking, what we want to do is develop guidelines that will cover pretty much everything. So let's just say we're going to purchase technology. We're going to like match them up against these guidelines. Like, does it do this? Does it do that? Does it, right?
Right.
Or, hey, you know, we're concerned, you know, for example, if it's student information, like where is that information going? Like, so Mike Morse weighs in and doesn't feel comfortable, like whatever we're putting into technology, whatever we're putting into a chatbot, like where is this information going? Right now, we have Gemini, which is through the Google Suite, which Mike and our tech team, whatever anyone's utilizing in Gemini, we can see, and whatever they're running. So that's like one safety piece that we like. But that's, as Mike says, that could change, because right now it's just part of Google Suite. And but when people so for example, so we have these guidelines, you can match it against purchasing of technology. Now let's say I'm a teacher and I want to do a lesson and I want to incorporate AI. Well, I look at these guidelines, and does it meet those pieces? Does it meet the ethical piece, the human piece, professional development? So that was kind of like our thought process of taking the everyday schooling, having guidelines to whatever I'm going to do, if it's technology or AI, match it up against this. And if I say, oh, I don't know if I like this, ethically, or I'm concerned with security, then it will sway our decision not to go there. So that's kind of what we were thinking with that.
The other thing, it's your committee, the breadth and depth is awesome.
Yeah, we're very fortunate.
And we felt it was good, and we have some people that really aren't tech savvy.
We're not going to mention
we have some people that are, for some of the...
You're very tech savvy.
But it's okay. I mean, I thought we try to blend it to stakeholders that would represent the district. And we really want to bring some of our parents in that are in the field of technology, but also some other professions, like Ms. Benson, who's an attorney, that's also starting to see AI in her field. So I think we had great experiences, and then the teachers could really speak the difference between a science teacher who may be utilizing AI for like research, to pull out data, versus a history teacher who's not using it as much because they want the students to write. So we had some great
conversations.
And I think we landed in a good place, but I think this is ongoing, and we'll be continuing this discussion next year.
Yeah. Do you have a comment?
I just wanted to, I think that's a really important thing. The more specific our policies are, the harder it is to make sure that all the different disciplines are able to do what they need to do. It'd be, one teacher might be like, oh, I'm fine, let's not use that at all. Right. And they're fine with that policy, but it doesn't really support, the science teachers. So I think we need to really be careful about being having overall guidance generally, but not get so specific that we can't really do
it. It's like threading the needle, but the other piece is, and what we really like, that once we fine tune the guidelines, it gives people, like, you might not have professional development and have people say, oh, you've got to choose. Let's just say I'm a teacher and I want to utilize something, I'm doing my lesson, but if I have guidelines next to me that I can follow, say, this meets our guidelines of what AI should be used, then that's kind of what we will shoot for with that.
Yeah. And I guess what I would encourage you guys to think about over the next year is, we had an initial meeting and discussion about this at the policy subcommittee. We are not feeling that we're ready to recommend that the school committee adopt a policy, although we did, Member Shaw did her little AI research and found that there is one district that got sued, right, by the parents, or they had to, in Hingham, and they have now since implemented a policy. It's very broad, but it's something they can now point to and say, this is why we did that enforcement against the student. So I think you guys need to be thinking, is there anything we need to do to buffer this school district if there are issues, questions about appropriate use of AI? I don't think we're ready yet, but that's one of the uses of our policies, is to make sure that we have something we can point to that gives us all a broad understanding of why we do the things we do in terms of enforcement and follow through with So I think that's something to keep in mind. And then the other thing I would say is, I think having guidance for classroom components of AI, but then we have this whole other part that's affected by AI, which is the administration of our school district and all of the things like HR and, how we recruit teachers, how we have interactions with each other as colleagues. And I think that's also, as an organization, we need to be thinking about what kind of protocols we're going to have in place for the appropriate use of AI in those kind of settings too. For example, if you go to PD, and it's all AI generated, is that okay? I mean, are we okay with that, or do we want to have some, push back on that a little bit? I don't know. I'm speaking way out of like my knowledge base, but I'm thinking about other places that we're going to want to have some guidance, I think.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that, all 4 members and the super said, this is an ongoing challenge, and I think we should be prepared to continue to tackle it. And right now, this is the appropriate way. Maybe there are policies that need to be implemented in the future, and there was a lot of discussion on that. Ms. Erwin was really articulate about that. It was a little bit like, at this point, we really need to trust the experts. So when you're talking about science, there was a history member, and that was a good question to ask. Like, right now, what would the high school history teachers say? And right now, they would all say no AI at all whatsoever for research papers and anything else. And that could change. So, it's discipline specific, it's classroom specific, and this is broad enough, but is a great step in the right direction.
Yeah. And giving staff members access to what they need is, I think, really important. So you already said that. Other members have questions on this one? One thing I did want to just also keeping in mind as we're about to start having a conversation about budget, are there specific needs we're going to have as a district that are based from AI?
Right.
So new staff, different types of staff, or consultants. I mean, I know at some point we were working with MIT. Did we continue to do that, or is that?
Yeah, we're still working with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that is good to bring up. I would foresee in the future this requiring a full-time position.
Yeah.
I mean, this could be years off, but this is going to be, to Mr. Ricky's point, there's no way to even grapple with how much this is going to change things. So, thank you for bringing up the budgetary.
I think Mr. Morris is great, but we're putting a lot on his shoulders. So I think just being careful that we're not, that we're being thoughtful about what we need.
Yeah.
Are you aware of any other districts that have a full-time staff member for this? Or even a part-time?
No.
It's not a thing yet.
The tech people are doing it now.
It's just a matter of time.
Yeah, I mean,
Or we'll
people
just
are
get
going,
AI
I mean,
to
this
do
is,
that.
people, I've talked to a student who's doing an internship on AI this summer from the high school, and maybe they're going to be our consultant. But I mean, people are going into fields that are just AI.
It's like that whole approach of a graduate, right? We're preparing kids for jobs that don't exist.
Right.
Yeah, that's true.
And we have engineers that are flying drones, and 10 years ago, there was no such thing as a drone.
Right.
So it's going to be one of those fields,
All right. We've now been going on 2 hours, and I could use a little break. Can we just pause for like a 5-minute break? Is
That would be great.
Okay. So we're going to stop broadcast, take a little pause, and we'll be back in 5 minutes.
We are restarting. Thanks, everybody. So we're moving on to the fiscal year 27 budget update.
All right. Catch us in mid-conversation.
Sorry.
Strategy.
Okay.
So just obviously our last meeting, we looking to close that $124,000 budget gap. As you all recall, you approved the 3.88 budget presentation, I think on the 29th. And then through the budget process, was reduced by the mayor to 3.6, which was $124,000 budget gap. So we've been taking a look at different options that we have. So this is the overall budget, and the remaining gap is $123,901. City Council adopted the school budget of $40,844,765.
And just to be clear, that's a city appropriation.
Correct.
So the
City
budget itself for
yeah.
the schools is bigger.
Bigger than that, right. So there was discussion, and speaking with Ethan and I over the past couple of weeks, discussion around the school nutrition revolving account. So what we did is Ethan and I looked at that revolving account, and we moved more money over to that, approximately like $18,000, which covers like grease traps, inspections, equipment type of stuff. And then we also reached out to Desi and kind of took a couple positions of the recess, the lunch monitor line, and we could shift by us reallocating that position and changing that position a little bit for a couple of the members. Their jobs will change slightly. We picked up $12,000 there. So right now, through that revolving account, we have $30,000 that we'll pull out of the general. So that's going to stay constant. We're feeling pretty comfortable with that. So with that $30,000 to the school nutrition revolving account, we're still short $93,901. And I don't think this is going to happen, but one option would be if the mayor, through a supplemental budget, would fund the $93,901. And I think I don't foresee that happening at this point. Maybe, I know he did mention supplementals in October and things like that, take another look at the city side, but I don't think that's going to happen now. So for us, as we look at what we have here as a school committee, because the ball kind of falls back into our court, we have some different options other than the supplemental. So you have the $30,000 revolving, that's constant. And then what we looked at was our school choice wait list. So we already have members on or candidates on the school choice wait list. And back at the 3.88, I know we suggested, and my numbers to you all was very conservative, my original numbers. We didn't add any school choice for the elementary grades from taking your feedback. We did add some for grade 6 because that's a small class, some at grade 9 and also some at grade 10. So at 3.88, I felt, okay, you know, we were pretty good at that point. At this point late in the game, my recommendation is if we accepted 7 students in grade 6, 9 students off the wait list in grade 9, and then 3 students off the wait list in grade 3. That closes the budget gap for us. Grade 10. Sorry. It would close the budget gap with $1,000 surplus. To me, that's option 1 is obviously I'm presenting as option 1, not option 3. I think for us, that would close that budget gap, and as we move into next year, I think that would bring us back to that 3.88 that we were looking to do and close at 123.
What is the total number?
Yeah.
Do you guys have that? If we did those adjustments as proposed, what would that bring our total
Well, it's
school choice
196 total, so whatever on top of that, plus.
And it also
19.
needs to know,
The total choice?
Yeah.
Yeah, so currently it'll be 196. This would bring it to 250.
I'd be curious what it is as a percentage per grade.
We did not calculate as a percentage per grade. As a percentage of total enrollment, it would be 10.2%.
But we had something that had the percentage per grade.
Yeah.
You had total
Earlier.
number per grade.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the chart you've been looking at, this is total number.
We have that, yeah.
So I'm just curious, because I think we agreed in spirit that we wanted to stay below a specific percentage. We don't have that number yet, but
No, we don't.
taking 9 more kids seems like that would push it. Is there anywhere else to look at it?
Yeah,
In
so-
grade 9?
Yeah.
So in grade 9, our school choice enrollment would be 44 students. So the existing choice students plus the new ones, out of 183 total students in the 9th grade projected.
Someone want to do some quick
Somebody can do that, Matt.
You want to do that?
Yeah, 44 and 180, I mean, that's...
Well, one question I
20%.
have is, this might be a lengthy discussion, I don't know.
Yeah, we're going to get...
Do we go through all 3 options and then come back? Do
Yeah,
we do the
we
school
can.
choice
I
first?
just think if we could also just, as we're considering the school choice, if we could understand what that means in terms of, to follow, remember Ricky, like what that means per grade, the total numbers versus the total enrollment. So
Yeah, so
if we
it's-
have that somewhere and we could pull it up when we get to that.
Sure.
That would be
Yep,
great.
I can do that.
Okay. Other questions on this option before, we can, like, I agree, we don't have to get into the details yet, but, yeah.
Because when we look at the
Member
other,
Aramo?
well, when we look at the other options,
Yeah.
we're going to feel differently about this one.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
All right, moving on.
the other options, and remember, for us to get to that 3.88, there was a lot of reductions that you already know. So what we want to do is, all right, option 1 is not impacting any school programming or any of that type of stuff. Option 2 is we're staying out of the academics. So you would have the 30,000 that's coming from the nutrition account. Non-academic reductions here would be a proposal for eliminating the middle school sports. And then we talked about athletics and the JV2 teams, athletics, and that would close your gap, 94,000. But you're not impacting any academic programming throughout the district. Option 3, if we don't do the athletics, option 3 is looking at non-core academic reductions. And we don't have anything specific here because obviously this would be bigger conversations with the faculty and also the principals about programming and all of that type of stuff. So it would be taking a look at world language, art, music, or other specialist programming throughout the district. So that wouldn't, you know what I mean? So that's kind of what we would be. We'd probably be losing 2 positions somewhere throughout the district.
Just examples of what specialist programming might be?
So this would be like other specialist programming could be like physical education, could be
STEM.
STEM, things like that. Yeah, that's not part of the core subjects in the sense of the. I mean, I would say they're all core subjects.
Right.
So I'm not saying that, but this would be a harder hit, I think, because you would definitely reduce, some offerings that throughout the district. And then the other piece that, we've already, I think, removed some people are retiring and some intervention and things like that. But then you look at the work that, Dr. Abrams has been doing with the playful learning. So we also have some instructional coaches that we really believe is a necessity because you have those grants that are very vital to school improvement. So for us to get down to that 388, we, I think, reduced as much as we possibly could without really, it's still impacting the schools, but we maintain our programming at that level. But I think if we have to reduce further, then, now there's not many more options other than either, outside of school, if we're looking at athletics, or your non-core academic reductions.
Okay, any questions on any of those options?
And just for the school choice piece too, is when you look at I didn't put it in there because we have so many documents on school choice, but if you look at the 2000s, around that time when school choice was similar to where it has been the last 4 years here, or 4 or 5 years here, it's similar to those times. So as low as a 8.3% when it first started, up to a 10.8%. So you're still in that range of an 8% to a 10%. And then it's obviously we've been talking about school choice, and that could be a discussion, moving into next year, kind of seeing where we're at with school choice. But I do want to say that our school choice students bring a lot to the district. The diversity that they bring in, the couple state championships that we won this year. We had some amazing choice students that are part of our community and these families. And traditionally in Newburyport since 1996, it's been part of our tradition here. So.
No, I very much appreciate making the case, and I very much appreciate that we are officially at the non-ideal realm of decision-making, and that needs to be stated out loud. So, and thank you for making the case. I think it's a good one to make. I do, and that's come up before. I think respectfully, with that specific line of argument, we don't want to be where we were in the late 90s or the middle 2000s in any way, shape, or form in regards to the budget, in regards of school choice and otherwise. So I think if we have to do this, we have to do this. Just for context, some of the discussions we had over the last couple of years is we didn't want to be in a position where we were relying solely on school choice to fill, and meaning be driven by the decision to do so solely for financial incentives and reasons, even though that's a very attractive functional use of it. And the guidance for a year now, or 10 months since the beginning of the process, was let's not try to expand this program too much. And the compromise was sort of, okay, we were at 189, we're going down to 171 through matriculation, and we went up to 196 and had a laborious discussion about, is it 35 spots or 25 spots, and we ended up at 25 spots, and even that took a lot of time to get to. I think this is a hard discussion to have without the mayor here. I could come to a point where, as a compromise, and it made sense to add 10 positions in school choice, and you felt like you could do so at the high school, I get that, and that's okay. It's just in light of the conversations we had, I think it's hard to add at this juncture of the game. To Ms. Aramo's point, we don't want to go to these other options, so I'm wondering if there's a way out. The way out would be, can the mayor find $93,000? And I get that. So thank you for going to such great lengths to try to figure out a very difficult scenario. And
yeah, sorry, I didn't.
No, it's good.
So we are in a tough spot, right? Like, we're going into the summer. We have a wait list for school choice. We don't have any scheduled meetings in July. We could have a special meeting in July if we felt like we needed to. But, we're coming down to a limited amount of options in front of us immediately. We could, certainly go to the mayor and ask for a supplemental immediately. I have a feeling that that's not going to happen because that supplemental has to go to the council. And the council right now is not feeling good about adding more money to the budget. So I think some time would have to pass, and there would have to be some financial reasons for giving a case for, for example, maybe the UGA funding comes in higher than we anticipated from the state, or there's the projections, right? We haven't gotten the state funding yet. So I think we'd need time or financials in the city look different in the fall. Who knows? But I think we can't expect that, based on the conversations we all experienced, that there's going to be much ability to increase our budget. So where I'm going with this is just that we are at a little bit of a, if we go with school choice or think that's a viable option, then that's the decision we should make that decision tonight, I think, or at least if it's not tonight, we will have to schedule another meeting in the next week, because I think we need to make this decision. If nobody here tonight feels strongly that we should do that, or if people are feeling that we shouldn't do that, then yeah, we're going to have some bigger conversations about our other options. And maybe those don't have to be made immediately, but yeah. Yeah, Member Higgins.
I feel strongly that we should make a decision tonight. We need to move into the summer. The district needs to feel good about where they are. If we move through with school choice, the families are on the wait list. They need to know. Their students need to know, where am I going to school next year, before they start looking at other options. And then that's potentially taking away our flexibility if they're going to start going somewhere else. As you've already mentioned, we are in a not ideal space, right? It's not ideal to have, choice numbers necessarily that high. If you're in a district public school, you wouldn't expect 20% of your class to be from outside of your city. That's completely understandable. Given option 2 and option 3, I would rather take that option. I would much rather take we're going to have additional students from other districts. I also want to look at it from the student experience perspective. This is not just financial, but it's our student experience. And how does our student experience change if we choose option 1? And for me, our student experience changes not at all at the elementary level, because we're not adding choice seats there, which was, my request initially. The district honored it. I really appreciate that, and it's remaining, right? We know that at our elementary level, it would be challenging to absorb more students. We already may absorb more students just based on the enrollment of students that live in our city, but that would be challenging to do, and that could potentially hurt the student experience, and we're not doing it. In the middle school, we're adding a certain number of seats to an extremely small class. So the fact that what is the student experience going to change? Probably not much, given that their class sizes will be comparable to that of their peers. They potentially will have one more student that doesn't live in their neighborhood, right? It's going to be from somewhere else. Grade 9, I think that was our biggest concern last time, would be our biggest concern this time. It's a large number. It's larger than we would hope it to be, given the other options. I don't think that we have a choice there. But at the same time, what is the student experience at the high school? And my argument for our students, for my own children, for any child, is not for any child, all children are different, but that a comprehensive high school with a lot of options and opportunities for kids to explore at the high school level is a benefit to their student experience. And to do that, you have to get through economies of scale. You need a certain number of students. And if our high school gets too small, they're going to sacrifice a lot of those opportunities. And so there's a financial implication. There's also a student experience implication that it actually makes sense to continue to have the robust enrollment numbers. And if we need to get those enrollment numbers through school choice, I would rather have all of our Newburyport kids continue to have the wide variety of opportunities that they have at our high school because of the numbers, even if we have to pad that with choice. So for a financial reason and a student experience reason, I'm not seeing many downsides to going with option 1, though I do also want to put out there, I did ask the superintendent about the vocational numbers. There is about $60,000 that the city is saving from 2 students graduating Essex Techs. I think it's reasonable to ask the city for that $60,000, which they already budget for to go to Essex Tech, to come to Newburyport, to come to our budget. Whether or not that's going to happen, that's outside of our purview, but I certainly think it's a reasonable request. And I would request that along with going with option 1, that just gives us a little bit more flexibility in our budget versus, let's ask for that $60,000 and then we only need half these choice seats. Let's just go with the full option 1 and then also make that request.
I think, did the council cut the budget? I think that they cut the budget the other night for Essex Tech, didn't they?
They did cut it, yes.
Yeah, that's,
Essex Tech.
Unfortunately, we
was-
played that card and it backfired on us.
It's already gone, okay.
I thought it was a great idea.
It was.
Still
But there's still,
unallocated
there's,
revenue, though,
okay,
that
okay,
could be allocated to another department.
okay. And I think it's a fair request. Like, where it doesn't matter where it comes from, we should ask. I agree. Yeah, Member Shaw?
I loved everything she said. Plus, I think going into 9th grade, having an influx of new students, is, in my mind, it's not that much different than the kids who have come over from IC, or the kids who come from River Valley, or come into the district in other ways, that are residents, and that kind of mixes it up, and it offers the high school students sort of a nice opportunity to connect with kids they've never been able to connect with before. After middle school, there's a few you want to push aside, and you just say, hey, let's see what, freshman year in high school. I'm being a little facetious, but
Yeah.
I'm all for increasing the numbers.
And I want to just throw out there too that, there's been a lot of talk about declining school population, but we aren't actually seeing direct evidence that our school population school age population is declining. There is a population in Newburyport that has a lot of options when they get to 9th grade. And some of those options are private schools. And so we also compete with the private schools. And I've had direct experience with peers, students from peer groups going to private schools and coming back because Newburyport is a strong district, and because of those extras, it's because of all the things we provide as a district. So we are competing with those private schools. If we want to keep that population, some of that population in our schools, continuing to provide this level of excellence is really important. So I do want to push back on this sort of this it's not a myth, but this idea that we have a declining population in terms of our school population. I think it's also that we actually have a pretty healthy school age population, but how are we keeping them in our schools is a critical thing to think about.
Yeah, I want to echo what Member Higgins said, all of that, and then just also point out that if we were to go with reduction in athletics, there has been some discussion about sport, school choice kids taking athletic spots away from resident kids. So it doesn't really solve that problem at all. And I think it would be a shame to remove those opportunities for the middle school kids and for some of the kids. I think those JV2 opportunities are for a lot of the kids who they just want to be part of a team. Yep. And I would hate for that to be removed from options for that.
Yeah, remember Ricky?
I agree with what everyone said. The only thing I would change is I would rather see more students in 9th and 10th than at 6th grade. I would just take more off the wait list. That's just my thought, because those kids do travel around. Like Kathleen said, we are getting kids from the IC, we're getting kids from River Valley and so on. I'd rather see us take more kids at the high school level than at grade 6.
I think, though, if we looked at the overall numbers, remember, Ricky, I think there is a small class. I think that was one of the reasons for bringing in.
It is a small, there was 14 per classroom.
So I don't know if that changes your view if we had those numbers in front of us, but I think
have
that's
them.
one of the reasons. You have them?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Isn't the incoming sixth grade class small
Yeah, it was going to
already?
be 14.
Incoming 145.
Right.
Yeah. Yep. Makes sense.
That was one of the.
But the numbers, we're backing into the numbers, is that correct? Meaning we're closing the gap with a monetary number, and then we're dividing it by a certain number and then allocating those spots to certain grades? Meaning we came up with.
Those are the wait list people.
I
Right, and
understand,
then-
but we're
right,
talking
so
about putting
taking some-
19 new spots in,
Right.
right? And that 19 came from.
Yeah, generates 95,000.
Exactly, yeah, so
Right.
we backed into it.
Exactly.
Okay, and, yeah, we don't need to relitigate all the conversations we have. I mean, it's very nuanced. I mean, even what you just said comes up, meaning there are middle school families who've left the district to go to private school because they don't feel like they're being served in the school because classroom
Right.
sizes are getting bigger,
Yeah,
and, I
I
mean, we
hear
could
you.
go on and on.
I know.
So I think it would be great to absorb kids. I do wonder whether we can tweak the numbers at all, if there's a way to find $20,000 here or there. We're
as
going to
we
get those
think about
numbers.
it, yeah.
And I think we do need to set the table so that we have these conversations going forward so that
Yes.
it's not so squishy, meaning when we say, oh, are we going to maybe try to stay around 200, or we maybe going to start around 10%, we can build that in to the early projections so that obviously things unfolded in a way this year that was harder to project the changes that you guys had to deal with, meaning what the increase was going to look
And
like.
I just want to say, to be clear,
Yeah.
we're putting a Band-Aid on here.
Right.
Yeah.
Those options that we're looking at could be a lot more stark next year.
Yeah.
So that's the conversation we're going to start having at the retreat, and we're going to continue to have over the next year. And we may be making some serious cuts next year, because the way things have been telegraphed to us from city council and the mayor, and potentially the reality of funding, I think this is all a healthy conversation to have about getting us to the budget, but I think we all need to keep in mind that that's one reason I would rather go the school choice route right now, because I think the bigger conversations are gonna.
We might be talking about this next time.
And that's,
Yeah.
I just wouldn't want to do a slice and dice and then suddenly we have to cut a whole program.
I think
Yeah,
we're all on
agreed.
the same page.
Yep.
But I wanted, Member Boger, you mentioned not having the mayor here tonight. I mean, I don't know. I mean, we can't predict what he would do. Are you feeling uncomfortable about making a vote on school choice tonight without the mayor? Would you rather one proposal was to have an appeal to the mayor, which I think has already happened.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah. I know, we're not feeling confident.
Well, I think, as Ian said, the unallocated revenue, 60,000 would help tremendously. But is it worth having another meeting, putting this off?
I think we should have a vote tonight on this.
All right, how are people feeling comfortable with the vote tonight?
Yes.
Member Boger?
Yeah, I think, in the broader spectrum of things, there is probably another way to come up with $100,000 in a $49 million budget. I'm not saying this isn't a solution that could work. It is, and if the staff has really worked over this, and this is what they're recommending, and they obviously are, as option one. I'm not suggesting you came up with two very unattractive options in order to push option one. I think we're at the point where the options are restricted and less than ideal. And I think you guys have been put in a tough spot in the way that things broke in terms of having to make a lot of adjustments very late in the budget cycle.
I would say too, though, I mean, I also, on the other things that are listed in here, like kindergarten enrollment, maybe requiring a classroom teacher, IEP reviews, identifying potential need for some additional instructional assistance, like, even before next year's budget, we're probably going to have to be thinking about some other options. So I think, yeah. All those things.
I agree. I mean,
and we don't even know if all the choice students will decide to come. I mean, I think even this late in the year, some of them have already made other plans.
So there's no guarantee that these, when we open these up, that these students are coming
Right,
either.
exactly.
But I'm just, and part of the ending here is, exactly additional staffing items. So our kindergarten enrollment, this class is higher than we normally have right now. So right now, I think it's 139, but there's 18 students in a kindergarten class as of right now.
That's high.
And still, throughout the summer, you're gonna probably have some more.
Right.
So this has happened to us, I think once or twice, where those numbers creeped up and we had to add an additional staff member to go from 7 sections to 8 based on the kindergarten numbers, so.
Okay.
I just want to say like and that's the other piece too, it's you monitor those classes.
It's a moving target.
Just one other question. I think I asked this and I don't recall the answer. Are we concerned at all about what's happening at RVCS?
Yeah, we're watching that, yeah, so there's 85,
So that
right now,
could-
there's 85 students that are over there.
Okay.
We haven't had many of them. I think possibly the kindergarten students, two
Yeah.
things. I think one, a lot of the publicity we received for the Playful Learning Grant, I think parents are reading about that. So I think making a choice of coming to Newburyport Public Schools or the charter school, I think some of those families are now deciding coming to ours, to our school. So I think that's a good thing. But I do watch those, we watch those numbers at the charter school.
It seems to have stabilized. Like
Yeah.
I talked to a few parents, and
Yeah.
it seemed like they're
Yeah,
kind
I think they're in a better place right now.
All right. So you don't need a vote on the budget, but we're going into the next agenda item, which is the vote on the, right? Do you need a vote on the budget?
We don't need a vote. This is the only vote would be.
School choice.
Approve the spots.
That would be the.
So the vote would be, if we could have the whole numbers so that we're not just saying to add, I think we've run into trouble with that in the past. So the vote would be to increase the grade 6 school choice enrollment, slots by 7, which would bring it to what?
To 12.
To 12 for the incoming school year. Grade 9 would be increasing by 9, which would bring that to what?
To 24.
To 24. And grade 10 would be increasing it by 3, which would bring it to what?
8.
8. So the resulting slots for school choice for these 3 grades would be 12 in grade 6, 24 in grade 9, and 8 in grade 10. Any clarification on that or questions? All right, so does someone want to make a motion to that effect? So moved.
Second.
Okay, any further questions or comments?
This is a good conversation to have, and I think we should have it early next year. I think in the broader sense, we just have to be cognizant that as much as we embrace this program, and I do, I know you do, everybody was very articulate about that, Ms. Higgins and Ms. Aramona in particular, that there is discussion in the community, and I think we need to be wary of giving credence to different points of view. I mean, it's a little bit, it harkens sometimes to the broader, it's like the discussion about immigration in this country right now. It makes no sense because nobody wants to talk about a sensible solution in the middle. Everybody wants to have a very binary discussion. So I don't think this is a good or bad thing. I think it's an effective thing. I think we can get some wonderful kids. I love the way Ms. Shaw talked about that, and may we all go forward with grace.
Nice, well put. Anyone else? Yeah, Member Higgins.
Just quickly, again, there are reasonable points of view on all sides, and it's nuanced in the middle. I also just wanted to say that we are voting right now on school choice numbers that will increase our existing school choice numbers, yet they are the originally proposed numbers of the school district before any of these conversations about the budget happened. Correct. Now, those originally proposed numbers could be higher than some people want. That's completely fair. Obviously, it was higher than this committee wanted. That's why we reduced them. But we are not going up from the district's original.
Well, it depends on what
recommendation,
you
which I think is
mean,
fair.
because it was 35 is what they came to us with. So now we're going from 25 plus 19. So it's above that. I mean, it depends on what point in the
No, the
in the
original
cycle.
numbers
The original
before.
numbers that were proposed.
Right.
Not what we voted to do, because we voted to reduce.
We voted for less than what they recommended.
The recommendation at the
Was
time was 35.
And we've knocked it down to 25.
But now we're going from 25 plus 19. So that's above the number that was recommended.
That's a fair point.
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah.
I think the staff recommendation had come down as a result of,
Yes,
feedback from the
right,
committee.
originally.
I think our original recommendation was higher than.
Yes.
25 and 5.
And then there was a lot of
I
conversation
see.
about.
We never
bringing
had
it
a
down.
formal one, so it depends on what point in the
Right.
discussion we had. We never had a
I think
formal
your point is a
recommendation
good
until we
one.
did, and that
Yeah.
number was 35.
Yeah, I
And
think
so,
your point is
just
a good
for the record, if we're making a
Yeah, no,
point for
that's
the
fair.
record.
Thank you for
then, yeah.
clarifying that. And did you want to continue? Sorry.
No, that's all. I think it was just the point of, that at some point, the district felt somewhat comfortable with these numbers outside this being a budgetary decision. That's all.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Yeah, and I would say too that I think we did go into the budget with smaller, we wanted to rely less on school choice. We made a very strategic decision about that. However, our hand was a little bit forced in some ways because, yeah. So, yeah.
Judge Judy would always say, quit while you're ahead.
That's the best option.
Yes, okay.
It's the problem.
I think we originally proposed 10, I think it was 10 for 6th grade, 25 for 9th grade, and then 5 for 10th, right?
Yeah, that was.
So it's 40 total.
Okay, so Member Bover was correct. Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And the vice chair votes aye. Okay. Good discussion, all. Thank you. Thanks for hanging in there.
Thanks.
All right.
Thank you all.
So, quickly, subcommittee updates. Anything from Finance Subcommittee, Mr. Bover?
No, the last meeting we had was precipitated this discussion.
Right.
So, yeah.
Okay, fair. Policy, Member Shaw. Good night.
Oh, policy. Yes, we met this past Monday, 2 days ago. And we reviewed what was presented today from the AI ad hoc committee. And we're kind of hold steady with just using those as guidelines for now and not creating policies quite yet, but there'll be further discussion before school starts, correct?
Yeah, well, actually, and I
Right,
think
we're
we
gonna
also
do
talked
that.
about a couple other policies that might need to be updated, but, and Superintendent Gallagher, I think I shared that with you, and you also shared a policy that does need to be updated
Right.
that is related to
Student medication.
student medication. But the other one, I think, if you and Ms. Furlong could look at, I think there's another policy that's supposed to be updated by August.
Yes.
And the policy police are going to come and get us updated.
Yeah.
So around the time of the retreat and whatnot, we'll have a policy meeting before school opens again.
Great. Member Higgins had to leave. Any other?
We haven't had a meeting since our last.
Okay,
school
and we
committee
had a
meeting.
lot of presentation today from that group. So, CPAC. Member Shaw, any updates?
Nothing since our last meeting.
Okay.
Yeah, they're done with their programming.
Got it. And NEF?
I made an error last time, 2 weeks ago, saying that their next meeting was the 17th. In fact, their next meeting is happening.
It's tonight.
Tonight, they're probably done by now.
Yeah.
No update.
So you couldn't go. I'm sorry. Okay, our summer retreat planning. So a couple things. We don't need, because of the late hour, I don't want to spend a ton of time on this, but I will, I'll send out an email asking folks for ideas on summer retreat topics. We have a little while before we have to decide anyway, because we aren't going to meet in July unless we need to. Our summer retreat date is currently scheduled for the 8th, is that what I said?
No.
The 12th, sorry, Wednesday, the 12th, and at least one member has a conflict. So I wanted to see if folks could, if we could push that out 1 week to the following Wednesday, which would be the 19th. And I'll confirm with other members before we finalize that.
I can do that.
Can everybody here do that?
What time would it be?
Right now, we had it scheduled for a 5 o'clock start.
To sell tickets to the Hearts of Pine, but that's okay.
You have to what?
Sell tickets to the Hearts of Pine in Portland, but that's okay.
Oh, no.
I'm willing to do that for the team.
They play on turf.
They have a lot of fans. It'll be easy to sell.
Okay.
Did you?
Remember, Ricky, is that 19th look okay for you?
July 19th?
August.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yep, it's on.
okay. So I'll confirm with Member Higgins and the mayor before we finalize that. So, Ms. Yao, we don't have to do anything yet on that front. Okay. All right, and then topics, I think, from my perspective, budget's going to have to be a big part of our discussion. I think just sort of how we approach the budget discussion in the upcoming year, what we think some of the key budget drivers are going to be already. And anyway, so I don't want to get into a lot of detail, but I think that would be a good, healthy part of our conversation. And then, but again, if there are other key topics people are interested in, I can solicit those by email. That's okay. All right, so moving on to the superintendent's report.
All right. I'll be quick. So we had our favorite poem project, the annual one, and it was a lot of fun. Deb Zabo obviously has started this many years ago, and we had Mayor Reed, Miss Eramo, and Miss Shaw Reed. It was great. We had a lot of fun, and I got to read a poem with my daughter that she actually wrote. So, yeah, it was a nice family moment for everybody. NAF Awards, once again, congratulations to the NAF Award winners. It was Danny Harrington got the Educator Award. Dental Associates was recognized as a business partner, and Jim and Tracy Hurst received the Cindy Johnson Volunteer Award. So on the deck, it was always a great venue. And obviously, thank the NEF for everything that they do. And our students got to perform there too, which was really, really neat. Skipper's 10 years of service. So our therapy dog at the Knock Mullen School retired with all our retirees. Just a great moment. They walked like the little tunnel, and all the kids were like cheering him on. Yeah,
I saw the long walk.
Yeah, the long walk. He's 15 years old.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah, so he's great career. And and then going back to a lot of the work that's been happening with Playful Learning, I can't say enough for our teachers and CELs. But really looking at kindergarten readiness. So this was the first year they did a play-based readiness assessment. So the students, incoming kindergartens were observed 30 minutes playing. And the teachers took notes, and it was also, obviously there's an academic piece, but this was a really a great piece. And then what has stemmed off of that is a kindergarten boot camp. So the idea of this is, and this is being sponsored by the Swayze Grant Program. So parents have signed, it's a pilot program for parents. They sign up their kindergartens for a week, and then they get to be introduced to kindergarten and almost like a pre-trial before they get to the first day of school. So they offered 3 weeks. Everyone has signed up, and there's a wait list for it. So we really believe that this is going to be a great program. So right now the Swayze Fund is piloting it and funding it, but this will be something, hopefully that the district will be able to continue to support.
Great.
We've been talking about the needs of our youngest students, especially the social emotional piece. I'm working with our teachers, and we just feel like this will be a nice transition for those students coming into kindergarten, where they'll be familiar with the teachers and the staff. So just as Dr. Abrams said, we have 166 teachers working on summer PD. I'm telling you, that doesn't happen in many other districts where teachers are participating in the summer for professional development. It really only happens here, that many teachers.
Yeah.
It just shows you the commitment of our professionals to the students and families here, so we're very lucky, so,
That's great.
yeah.
Awesome. Any questions for the superintendent?
Do you have the agenda for the summer?
The summer boot camp?
Yeah, not for the kindergarten, for the PD.
Oh, yeah.
Was it in our, I feel
Because I went to the first one this year, and it was awesome.
Yeah.
It was impressive.
Yeah.
So I'd like to see if there's anything worth.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
there's-
yeah.
Yeah.
We do have a list, there's a list in the packet, but it's not very detailed.
Right. But that's something, if you reach out to myself and Lisa Furlong, we can definitely get you the ones that you might want to pop in and check it out, yeah. I think it's good too, because if school committee has time to just, informally thank the teachers for, pop in and say, wow, it's
It was very impressive.
Yeah. Oh, thank you.
Great.
Well, there's a lot going on.
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
This is a whole lot.
Great. Okay, any new business? All right. Well, we did a marathon for our last evening, but you get a whole month off, everyone. Month plus. Not the staff, but the rest of us do. All right.
Yeah.
So I'll take a motion to adjourn. Someone want to make that?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, thanks, everyone.
All
Happy
right,
summer.
thank you all. Happy summer.